Hey, Nick Lacapo here, and welcome to Psypher. Psypher has become one of the most powerful mentalism utility devices that you could own, and I'm excited to show you how you can start using it. We have a lot to get to in this tutorial, and I'm going to show you how to set up Psypher in 3 different ways, give you some other ideas as well. But we're going to be setting it up into a card box, a business card, and a notepad, which has all been included in your kit as well here. So let's take a look at what comes in the box. Okay, let's take a look at what you got here. You have 3 pieces of the Psypher gimmick. This first largest piece, this is what's going to fit inside of a notepad. This medium-sized piece, this is what's going to be fit onto a playing card. And this smaller piece here, which is cut to fit a business card. I'm going to show you all those different setups a little bit later, and just after this I'm going to show you how this actually works and what this does. But for right now, those are the 3 pieces that you should have. You also have this special Sharpie. This is a regular Sharpie. If you open it up, you'll notice that there's a little tiny piece of metal sticking out of the tip. Don't touch that or anything just yet. I'm going to show you how to set this Sharpie marker up in a moment. That's actually a magnet, and we're going to be messing with that in just a minute. But for right now, that's the Sharpie marker that you have. You also have this little business card wallet. Inside the wallet is a big flat magnet. You can go ahead and take that right out. There's nothing funny about this magnet. It's just a refrigerator magnet. And this wallet, actually, don't throw this out either. I'm going to show you a little bit later how to turn that into a peak device. So that's going to be really cool as well. So that's everything that came in your kit. Let's take a look at the actual Psypher gimmick. Okay, let's take a look at the actual Psypher material and how to set it up. Just go ahead and grab the pieces of Psypher that you have here. What this actually is 2 really thin sheets of plastic with some iron filings in between. And this is what's going to give us our impression, which I'll demonstrate for you in just a moment. But before we do, let's learn how to set this up. The first thing that you're going to want to do is remove the protective backing from this. Now, I call it a protective backing. I don't think it actually protects anything because this material is very durable. But this blue shaded side, green-blue shaded side, actually peels off. And it might take me a minute to get one of these off of here. All right, I already got it. Now, I should mention, I just mentioned it there, that this gimmick actually is very durable. And throughout this tutorial, we're going to be taping this material to things, and we're going to be cutting it in some cases. Don't be worried about this. This is going to last you a very long time, so you don't have to be too concerned with beating it up all that much. So, well, you can get to the rest of these whenever you want, but you should just know that this blue backing needs to come off of your gimmick before you start using it. Once you have that blue backing off of it, we're going to calibrate the gimmick. And what that means is that if you remember what I mentioned before, is that there's some iron filings in between here. So if you take this magnet and rub it on the top, it's going to start to get a little darker. This is because the magnet is actually pulling those iron filings to the top. After you've done that a little bit, turn it over. And now rub the other side until it turns black. All we're doing is loosening up the iron fibers in between these sheets and getting them nice and loose for a little bit later when we start getting impressions. So you just want to do this a few times before we get started. You don't have to do this every time before you perform. This is just because they're brand new and they haven't really been used to moving about. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. So that's how you calibrate the gimmick. Now that's just the first part of the Psypher gimmick. The other piece is the marker. So let's take a look at how to set that up right now. So let's take a look at the Psypher Sharpie. Go ahead and take the Sharpie out of the kit that you got, and on the inside, if you open it up and take a look at the tip of this Sharpie, you'll notice that it has a piece of metal sticking out. That's actually a magnet, and it's been drilled into the tip of this Sharpie. But there's a little bit more setup that you need to do to the tip of this before we get going. Basically, that magnet is going to be drawing the impression out of the Psypher gimmick. I'll show you how that works just after this. But we're going to be tapping that magnet down into the tip of the marker. So what you're going to want to do is get a piece of paper or something that you don't mind getting some ink on, because we're going to be doing some tapping on the table here. But before I do, I'll show you a couple examples of what you want it to look like. I have some older Sharpie marker, Psypher markers from back in the day. These are just some old Expo markers I have, but they do have magnets in the tip. Now, if you look at the tip of this Expo marker here, you can see that it's kind of sticking out just a little bit. I've tapped it down, but I haven't tapped it down far enough. You might be tempted to have the magnet just at the tip of the marker there. You actually want it just below, because if you see what happens when I try to write with this marker, it's gonna kind of be really scratchy. Actually, I haven't even tapped it down far enough. Let me get a little further. I can't even get to the pad there. It's just very, very difficult to write it all because of that magnet still sticking out. So what you want to do is actually tap it just below the tip surface. Now, I have a better marker here. Let me show you what that one looks like right there. Now, I'm sure you probably can't even see the tip of it. You can't see the magnet sticking out, but if I tip it down, okay, yeah, you can kind of see it peeking there, right? And it's actually just below the tip of the marker. So with this marker, I can actually write normally on the paper. Now, if I push down really hard, you might be able to feel that magnet in there, but it just feels like a tough marker or something like that. So that's the way that you want it. You want that magnet just below the tip of the marker. So that said, we're going to go ahead and tap the Sharpie that came with your kit down. So all you want to do is just get a really tough surface. I'm going to use the back side of my table right over here, and I'm just going to tap it down until you'll know when it hits the felt pad, and you can check it a little bit there. So you can already see that mine right now it probably needs to go down just a tiny bit more. I can even test it right now on this piece of paper. Actually, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I can kind of feel the magnet just slightly, so I'm just going to give it one more tap, and that'll probably be perfect. Yeah, that looks great. So I'm going to hold this here so you guys can see it. If you look at the tip of the marker, you can't see the magnet. If I tip it down, you can see it right in there. And it doesn't matter too much if it goes too far down. Okay, that's going to be fine as well. You just want it underneath the felt tip, so that when you write just as normal, and the magnet's in there. Now, this is a regular Sharpie. This is just regular Sharpie ink. So there's you can use it for any routine. It doesn't have to be for just Psypher. However, you don't want to lose it, right? So there's a couple tips on keeping this separate from your other markers. One thing that I like to do when I get a new one of these is I'll take another Sharpie and I'll just color the bottom of it, so I know that is my Psypher Sharpie. I'll just color the bottom of my Psypher Sharpie. Now, that rubs off sometimes, so you either have to keep doing it. Another tip that I like, and I see a lot of guys use this with Psypher, is if you get one of those fancy Sharpie shells that make it look like a cool pen, that's a great use for one of those Sharpie shells, so you can have your Psypher pen in there. Now, if you're worried about refills, this marker will last just as long as any other Sharpie marker that you might own. However, if you are going to be performing this all the time, you don't have to worry. You can buy these markers separately on Penguin Magic, and if you are going to be doing this all the time, I recommend you get a few just so you have them laying around just in case. They're fairly inexpensive, so you can find those on Penguin Magic. All right, so the marker's set up, we get our Psypher gimmick set up. Let me show you how the two of them work together. So you've set up your Psypher gimmick, and you've also set up the Psypher marker. Let me show you how the two of them work together to gather an impression. This is just a quick demonstration of the gimmick. I'm going to show you how to set it up into different things in just a moment. But for right now, I'm going to use the big notepad style piece of gimmick. I also have just some pieces of paper here and the magnet. We're going to be getting an impression on the Psypher gimmick here. Now, what you want to do is whatever side you want the impression to be on, you're going to want to rub the magnet on the other side of it. And what that means is right now all of these iron filings are on the back side of my Psypher gimmick. There's two sides to this. One looks a lot smoother. The other one kind of looks a little bit rough. I always like to get my impression on this smooth side. It'll work either way. However, I feel it's a little bit clearer on the smooth side. You might find differently, I'm not sure. But if you wanted to get the impression on the other side, what you would do is you would rub the magnet on the back on this gimmick here and then turn it over, and this would be the side that we would get the impression on. But I'm going to show you the impression on the other side, so let me bring all these back up to Now the bottom of the gimmick. And I'm going to lay some pieces of paper over the top of it. Now this would be a notepad or a card box or a business card stack. You're going to see a lot of that stuff coming up. But for right now, we just have some pieces of paper. Remember, this Sharpie marker has a magnet in the tip, so it's going to be pulling only the iron filings in your Sharpie drawing. Let me just show you. It's a hard thing to explain, but if I was to just draw a big old smiley face on this piece of paper, I could have my spectator remove the piece of paper, crumple it up, right? Oh, I didn't see what you drew. But secretly, Psypher is going to steal that image because it's bringing all those magnetic pieces to the surface of the gimmick, right? So that's how it works. It doesn't matter what you draw on this piece of paper, it's going to show up on the Psypher gimmick, okay? So that's what it is. That's how they work together. Now let's take a look at a bunch of different setups, and we're going to start off with this Psypher card. Okay, it's finally time to install Psypher, and we're going to start off with what I think is the most versatile use of this gimmick. There's a lot of different ways that you can use it, but I absolutely love having a Psypher gimmick in every deck of cards that I use because it allows you to do all sorts of different tricks. So I'm going to show you how to create the Psypher card. I'm going to show you what we need to do that in just a moment here. And then we're also going to learn some routines and peaks. I'm going to show you how I use it. And I also have my friend Brent Braun here. He's going to show you how he does his routine as well with it. So what you're going to need to grab is the Psypher card size gimmick. We have that here. A pack of cards. You're going to want some nice sharp scissors because we might be doing a little bit of trimming. And then for a lot of the routines and tests and practices here, you want to grab some Post-it notes or just some pieces of paper that you might have, but eventually you're going to want to grab some Post-it notes and of course your Psypher marker. So let's take a look at how to make the actual card. Okay, let's make the Psypher card. I just totally forgot, you're going to need some double stick tape as well. But before we do that, let's take a look at the gimmick here. I haven't removed my little blue piece, so I'm going to take that right off. Oh, doesn't that feel good, right? Okay, you're also going to need a spare card, one that you don't mind sacrificing to the Psypher gods here. So I think I got like a double backer or something in here. I got a blank facer, that one's cool. You could use a double backer. It doesn't matter because the audience is never ever going to see that card at all. So whatever card you want to use, I mean, the funny thing is sometimes the peak is so good they won't even see the backside of it, but you should probably have it match the, the deck that you're going to use it for. So what we're going to do is we're going to stick the gimmick onto the face of the card. Now, like I said before, I love that the shiny side, so that's the side that I'm going to be reading my impressions on here. Just going to grab my magnet from off to the side. So you'll still be able to pull all those little iron filings down through the back side of the card, right? So that's how I would reset my gimmick, and that's what the impression would look like on the face of it. So it's a pretty simple process. All we're going to be doing is taping the gimmick to the card. All right, so I'm just going to grab some double stick tape here. And I'm just going to hit the sides of this card with it. And like I said, we're going to be taping these gimmicks to a lot of different things. This gimmick can stand up to a lot. I've been using the same Psypher gimmicks for, well, since it came out, and mine are pretty rad. I'm going to show you one of my older ones a little bit later, but they kind of stand up the test of time. I'm going to put one in the middle here as well. Why not? Okay, so now I've got some tape on my card that I'm going to use. And I'm going to keep that rough side down because that's the side that I don't want to read. I want this nice flat shiny side. So I'm going to just stick that onto the card. Now this has been cut just so it fit. You'll have just enough to cover the whole card. Okay, so if you take a look at it, there should be plenty around all the sides. This is where the scissors come in because we're going to be trimming that Psypher gimmick. Now don't be too concerned because what's funny is this is actually too much gimmick in my opinion. When you see my gimmicks that I've used in the past, I don't even cover the whole card. I actually like it to be more in the center. It feels nice to have a completely covered card, and I get it, but it's totally not necessary. So don't be nervous about cutting this gimmick right now. We're just going to be trimming it along the outside. You're still going to have plenty to do with any card Psypher magic that you want to do later. So we're just going to be trimming around the sides of this card right now. And you do want these scissors to be nice and sharp because this is a piece of plastic. Right around the sides there. You can always do the corners. If you don't have a really sharp pair of scissors, you can always do them with a pair of nail clippers. That always tends to work really well. I'm just going to do the sides first here. Okay, one more side. All right, and why not be perfect? Nobody's ever going to see this card, so you don't have to worry about it being completely perfect, but I totally understand if you want it to be. All right, cool. Perfect, all right. You can toss all this little stuff aside. So now you have the Psypher card. This is what's going to receive the impression in your deck of cards. If you want to reset it, you just rub the magnet on the bottom. You know, once you get an impression of whatever somebody's going to write, it's going to go right there. So let me show you the basic operation of what's going to be happening. You're going to be keeping this card in your deck, and then you're going to be putting it into the box. We're going to be using some Post-it notes on the outside of the box. People are going to be able to write on it, and you'll be able to receive an impression, believe it or not, right through the box. So let's take a look at that now. I'm going to show you a bunch of different ways to do the setup and get the peak with Psypher, and then we're going to look at a bunch of different routines. In almost all the routines that we do with the Psypher card box, we're going to be using some Post-it notes. You're going to have somebody write on your card box. Post-it notes tend to work the best for that. If you have another preference, it's fine. If there's some sort of piece of paper out there that you like to use, it's fine. But I don't think there's much of a substitute for just peeling one of these off and placing it on the card box like this. So a typical Psypher card routine, and this is one of the original routines that Robert Smith had on the original DVD, is just a straight up card reveal. You would hand somebody the deck of cards, have them think of a card, and then you would tell them what it is. And let me show you what that process looks like. Our setup is this. We just have the Psypher card on the face of the pack. I have the pack with all the cards facing up and the Psypher gimmick on the face of the deck there. That goes into the box, and I always remember that the backing side is the side that has my Psypher gimmick. You're just going to need to know what side that is. You would take off a Post-it note, place it on the box, hand it to your spectator like this with your Psypher marker, and tell them, I want you to think of a card and just write it down. And you could do, the initials of a card. So if you're thinking of Jack of Spades, you could write JS, or if you're thinking of the Three of Clubs, you could write 3C. Just go ahead and write down any card that you want. And it doesn't matter what card they write down. So for this example, we're just going to say that they write down 8 of Spades, okay? So on the card box, they write 8 of Spades. So after they've written it down, you say, now, I don't want to see what you've written down. We just need that. We might need that in case for later. Go ahead and peel it off the box. And they can peel it off of the box like that. And of course, there's no impression or anything on the card box. This acts like a nice little clipboard for them to write on, which is something nice to mention during the performance as well. So whatever they write there ends up on your Psypher gimmick, of course. So when you take the card box back, you say, all right, you can play it down on the table and say, I want you to think of the card. I think I got it. Your motivation is to go back to the card box and remove the card that they're just thinking of. That's when you're also going to get your peak. And there's a variety of ways to do that. The first way that we're going to get the peak is, it's kind of called the dump out peak. This is the way that it was taught originally. When we open the card box, we're going to let the cards dump out into our hand. And we're also going to peak the gimmick and ditch the gimmick at the same time. So here's what that looks like. We're just going to open up the card box. And I'm going to try to tilt this towards you so you can see what's going on, but obviously you would do this in front of the spectator so they would never see what you're actually doing. You're going to dump the cards out into your hand, right? And as clear as day, I can read 8S, 8 of spades, right? So I'm just dumping the cards into my hand. After I get my peek and I know that I have it, I'm just going to use my thumb to push that back into the box as I remove the rest of the cards from the box. It's a very, very simple peek to do. So let me show it to you again. I'd have them right on there. Peel off the Post-it note. Don't let me see it, of course. You're thinking of a card. Look at me. Oh, I think I've got it. I think I've got it. Let me pull it out of the pack here. All right. And then you would go through the pack, remove the 8 of spades, and then reveal the card, wherever it is. It doesn't matter. We already know what card it was. So that's the dump out peek. That's the first peek that I wanted to show you. I want to show you another peek called the Joker removal peek. To do that, I'm just going to reset my gimmick here. Again, to do that, all you do is take the magnet and rub it on the back of the playing card there. You'll see that 8 of spades just disappear. Okay, I'm going to place the gimmick on the face of the pack again and place it in the box with the card up there. When you're ready to perform, you would have your spectator. You'd say, I want you to think of any card. In fact, I want you to write it down. I want you to write it down. Go ahead, take this card box so you have something to write on, and write down any card. And so they're going to write down the name of a card, and again, we'll go with 7 of clubs, so 7C. Okay, all right, go ahead and hand me the marker, and go ahead and peel that off. We might need that a little bit later, but hide it so that I can't see it. Okay, great. I'll take the deck of cards back. All right, so you're thinking of a card. It's a red card, black card. You could do all sorts of cold reading stuff here, or all the jokes that you probably already know about guessing somebody's card. But whenever you're ready to reveal the card, you can do this. You say, okay, I know what the card is. Let me take it out of the pack. Take the whole deck out this time. Run through the cards. Oh, I know it's not the Joker. We don't need that. Did you see what I did right there? All I've done is remove the Psypher gimmick from the deck and placed it in the box after looking at it. It's a very simple thing to do, but it's very well motivated. Taking the deck out of the box, spreading through the cards. Actually, you know what? It's not the Joker. We don't need that one. Let's get rid of that. Place it back in the box and continue to find their card. Let's just, what was it, the 7 of clubs? Place that on the table. You can reveal their card and reveal that you knew what it was. So it's a nice motivation for removing the gimmick from the pack. You could also call it the advertising card or whatever, but it's just the idea of removing the Joker from the pack and placing it back in the box. And now your deck is technically clean, right? So that's another peek. Let me show you another one that I really like. Let's reset the gimmick. I have the 7 of clubs on there. Again, it's like a magic trick in itself. Watch it disappear. There it goes. So we'll put that on the face of the pack and into the deck like that. Again, I would have tell my spectator, I want you to think of any card. Can you see them? Okay, great. You have one in mind. Actually, I want you to write it down. I have some little Post-it note here. I'm going to put this on the deck of cards so you have something to write on. Go ahead and write that card down. So in this case, they write down Ace of Spades. All right, I'll take the marker back, peel off the Post-it note, hide it in your pocket. So that's gone. So now I'm going to try to read your mind, figure out what card you're thinking of. Think of the card, red or black. I think I know what it is. Might be this one. Might be this one. I think I'm going to go with this one, and then you would reveal the Ace of Spades. All I'm doing here is this. I don't have to worry too much about taking the deck out of the box. I'm going to pull the deck out, and I'm going to immediately cut it. What's nice about cutting the deck is I could show the cards like this, which I just failed to do in performing it for you quickly. But when you pull the deck out, you could actually just show the deck like this after you've cut it, of course. You're thinking of one of these cards? Let me see if I can figure out what it is. And I'm actually going to up-jog the gimmick. Okay? So if you look here, I've up-jogged the actual gimmick that tells me what the card is. It could be this one. It also gives me a nice reason to be looking right at it. Ace of Spades. Okay, no, maybe it's this one. And then you would actually up-jog the card that they're thinking of. In this case, the Ace of Spades. Yeah, no, it's definitely this card right here. What was the card that you were thinking of? They say Ace of Spades. and then you can reveal the card. So it's kind of nice because it sends the gimmick to the middle of the deck. I like to do that one when I'm performing some of the routines that I'm about to show you a little bit later. I think that works really well. There's another peek that some guys use. I don't think it's necessary, but I thought I'd show it to you. And again, we're just going to reset the gimmick right here. And that is having a card on top of the Psypher gimmick. Believe it or not, it'll still work. It doesn't pull up as much, but if you can rely on it. But it's just not necessary. Some guys think that after you get the impression, you might want to take the deck of cards out this way. It really doesn't matter, but let me show it to you, so show you what it looks like. So again, I just have the Psypher gimmick second from the face of the deck, right? I just have one card on top of it. So then my spectator can write whatever they want on the card box here. I have them think of a card, and they write down the 4 of clubs. All right, go ahead and remove that Post-it note. I'll take the marker back. And now you're going to get your peek on your gimmick. What is nice is that you can take the deck out like this. Hell, you could even put it down on the table, talk a little bit. You probably haven't chose the Ace of Spades. Here, and let me see if I can figure out what card you thought of. And you'll be able to see the impression on the gimmick right there, the 4 of clubs. So I don't know that it's worth the risk. If you have somebody that doesn't write very like normal, if they write very lightly, you can risk not getting the impression, which is why I like to just have it right on the face of the card box. But if you are up for it, you can do it like that. Now, there is an obvious concern with having a card on the face of the gimmick. There's a couple ways to get around with it. If they do say the Ace of Spades, you should probably remember that you have the Ace of Spades covering your gimmick. It's actually a pretty good trick if they just name the Ace of Spades and it happens to be the card on the face of the pack. So just as long as you remember what card it is, in case they write that one down, that's a way to get around it. But just a simple card reveal like that is a great way to get started with your Psypher gimmick. Have somebody write down a card, pretend to read their mind, use the deck as motivation to go back in, get the peek, and reveal the card. Now, in saying all this, in showing you this, you probably have come up with some ideas that you already wanted to try, because Psypher is, of course, a utility device, and it's going to work best with the magic that you already know how to do and make it stronger. That said, let me show you a few of my favorite routines to do with it, and then my friend Brent Braun's going to show up. He's going to show you his routine as well. So let's take a look at some performances now. Kelsey, I have the deck of cards here. A little Post-it note. I just want you to use that so you have like a little something to write on. Yeah. Write down the first name of somebody that obviously I couldn't know. Just the first name, somebody that's important to you. Maybe somebody not here. Well, it doesn't matter. Yep. You've already written it down? Okay, good. Cap the pen. Now, obviously, you can remember that name, right? Yeah. Okay, I can trust you to remember the name. All right. Then if you're confident you can remember, just peel the Post-it note off, and you can crumple it up or do whatever. That's just so we have some physical evidence. We're going to use the name to select a card. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. I'll put this away. I'm going to hold out your hands. I'm going to deal cards into your hand like this. Every time I deal a card, I want you to spell a letter in your head. So, for instance, my name's Nick, right? So, if you were thinking the name Nick, you would in your head think N-I-C-K for each card that goes down. And when I get to the end of the name, think stop. Don't say it. Just think it. Okay? Sound good? Yeah. Here, mix those real quick. Just real quick. Okay. You're good.
I'm not the right person, you marked me.
You've been cursed. No, I mean marked. All right. Are you ready? Yeah. So think stop when I get to the end. Are you ready? Obviously, it's not one letter. Did you just think stop? Yeah. You did? Okay, this might work. Take a look at that card. Don't let me see what that... Top one? Yes, that card, yeah. You got it? Can you remember it? Yeah. All right, here, you can just put them back into the pack. So you were really good at that last thing. So if you just visualize the color of the card that you just looked, and it's red, you are good at this. It's the Ace of Diamonds. I was seeing a couple things like that.
Oh. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Should we try one more thing?
Yeah.
Well, because you're thinking about somebody. and there's no way I could know who this person is, right?
Yeah.
So if you visualize the letters for me, I think start with the first letter. This is a guy. It's a man's name. Is this your boy?
No.
It's related though.
Yeah.
You're thinking of Paul?
Oh my god. Oh my god. Everybody pause.
So what you just saw is my favorite way to perform Psypher. It's just such a strong trick. It builds and builds and builds in 3 phases, and man, it never fails to get a killer reaction. Let me show you how I set this up. I have another peak that I use. Like I mentioned before, a lot of this, you're just going to end up doing what you want to do with Psypher. You're welcome to do anything that we show you on this video, of course, but keep in mind that you can adapt it to whatever you already know how to do. That being said, I set my Psypher gimmick up in my card box just a little bit differently. It's something that helps me get the peak easier, and I think you might like it as well. I mentioned at the beginning that you don't quite need all that Psypher gimmick. Let me show you. This is the one that we just made, okay, not that long ago. And this is the one that I've had for, probably about 3-4 years now, something like that. You can see how awful this card looks. This card actually has been trimmed on the sides, and I've made no effort to make it look decent because nobody ever sees it, right? This is the card that I've been using to get my peak. Let me show you what that looks like real quick, and then I'm going to show you how to make this in case you're curious. We'll show you how to make that just a little bit later. All right, so for right now, the way that I get my peak in my Psypher routine is that I take this shaved card and put it on the face of the pack, and it goes in my card box. Same standard procedure. I'm going to have somebody write something down. I'll step you through the routine just in a second. When I get the card box back and I'm going to get my peak, I lift up right at that half moon cutout right there. I lift up, and then I kind of grip the box on the sides just momentarily because I'm going to re-grip here on the pack of cards. As I do that, I've pulled the card box of the cards up enough to see my information that I need. As I do that and lift the cards up, that Psypher gimmick just falls back down because the sides of that gimmick have been trimmed off. I can't actually grip it right here. So at speed, when I take the card box back, I'm just going to pull the cards out of the box, and the gimmick just falls right back into the box. So I think this is a great way to use the Psypher peak. I know some guys I've showed it to have had, maybe they don't open the card boxes the same way that I do, so they kind of fumble with it a little bit, but for me, it's just automatic. You just pull the cards out, re-grip, let that Psypher gimmick fall right back into the box as you put the box away, and take out the deck of cards. It's just an awesome way to peek the card. So I will show you how to trim these edges and cut the gimmick right after I show you this routine. So we'll step through that. So let's talk about this routine that I do with Psypher. The first thing that I use is it's a marked deck. I think that for this routine, I just want there to be absolutely no sleight of hand, no nothing, just a real miracle. So for that, I use the marked maidens, which have become my everyday deck of cards at this point. This is all I use. I hate telling you that on camera because now I'll never fool you in real life. But here we are. This is what I use. These cards are marked on the back. It's just a very clever marking system in the top middle. If you've never seen these cards before, this is the Two of Hearts. It's right there in the top middle and on both sides here. It's marked clear as day. I can see it, and that's all we need to know for right now. So I'll put the cards into the box. I'll put my Psypher gimmick into the box. I need my Psypher marker and some Post-it notes, and we're ready to go, okay? So when I'm ready to perform, I'm going to ask the spectator if they can think of somebody that means something to them. And that's an important statement, that it's somebody that's close to them, somebody that they know, because you really want them to think of their mom, their dad, their sister, their brother, their roommate, their boyfriend, their girlfriend, their wife, whatever. You want it to be somewhere in that world. You don't want it to just be some person they work with or something, somebody with a real emotional connection. So the first thing I'll ask him is to think of somebody. You have somebody in mind? Okay, great. I'm going to have you write their name down because in a moment, we're going to use their name to select a card. And that's the whole motivation behind this routine, is that we're going to be, it would just be weird for them to write down a name and then here, pick a card. No, their name is going to help us select the card. It gives us a little bit more motivation for using the deck of cards. So that's a nice little thing to keep in mind here. So you just put the Post-it note on the box as normal. I used to trim these to size, and sometimes I do. I think people know what a Post-it note is, so it's fine that it goes over the sides, but if you are particular, don't be afraid to cut these to size as well. I'd hand them the box and they write a name, and we're just going to say Mike. Okay, perfect. So they write down the name of a person, and all you've explained at this point is that we're going to be using their name to select a card. Okay, great. Go ahead and peel that name off. Okay, keep it in your pocket. We might need it later just in case. All right, at this point I have no idea what they've written down. Okay, I'm going to take the card box back, and I'm going to reiterate again, the reason why we're opening this deck is because their name is going to choose a card. So I'm going to take the cards out. I'm going to get my peek, clear as day. Mike, beautiful. Let the gimmick fall right back down into the box as I put it in my pocket, out of sight. Now we know that the name is Mike, and I'm going to explain to my spectator as I hand them the deck and let them shuffle it, which is an awesome detail. They're going to shuffle this deck of cards as I give them instructions. I'm going to say in a moment, we're going to use the name that you're just thinking of to help us select a card. And to do that, after they're done shuffling, I'll take the deck back. I'm going to spell the card into your hand. Hold out your hands for me. Every time I place a card in your hand, I want you to spell a letter of their name. So for example, if you were thinking the name Nick, you would think N-I-C-K, just in your head, right? When I get to the last letter that you're thinking of, just scream stop, just in your mind, okay? Just scream it really loud, okay? So all you're doing here is getting the spectator understand that you're going to be dealing cards in their hand, and when you get to the last letter of the name that they're thinking of, they need to yell stop as loud as they can in their mind, okay? And this is an awesome effect, okay? Let me step you through what's going on. We already know the name is Mike. So once I know that my spectator understands what to do, I'm going to deal cards into their hand. I'm going to say, well, we know their name's not one letter. Okay, it's not two. I'm going to look at them like I'm actually looking for a reaction or anything that can tell me when they've reached the end of the word. 3. Now I know this word only has 4 letters in it, so I know if they're following my instructions, they're going to be screaming stop in their head after I deal this card, right? So I'm going to deal this one down, and then I'm going to pretend like I actually heard it. Holy crap, did you just think stop? It's a really strong effect for somebody if they are following what's going on here, because it's believable, right? It's not, I haven't revealed some miracle or anything like that. All I've done is kind of like read them and understood what they were thinking in that one small moment. It's a very powerful effect, and don't overlook it. And it also sets up the next 2 reveals, which is great, because you can get excited that it worked. You did? You just thought stop? Perfect. I think we might have some sort of connection here. They have 4 cards in their hand now, okay? Because you just dealt 4 cards down. You understood that they said stop, and that is the first effect. Awesome. Go ahead, take a look at that card. So now what I'm doing, I don't care what these cards are, because when I say, go ahead, we've stopped at the 4th card, go ahead and take a look at that card. I am blatantly looking and reading the back of this card. It says Jack of Spades. I said, go ahead, look at that card. I don't want to see it at all. I'll turn my whole body away. So they'll take this card, okay? They'll look at it. After I know that they all have it, I'll say, go ahead and just put them back into the deck. It doesn't matter. Just put your cards back. And I will put this deck away because you are done at this point. Not only do you know what card they are thinking of, but you also have the kicker ending where you know the name as well. All this time delay kind of takes the heat off the name too, which further punches them in the face when you get to the ending of this, okay? So take the deck. I recommend putting it back in the box, putting it away completely. That way you're just propless for the last 2 minutes of this thing. There's a lot of different ways to reveal a thought of playing card. The way that I do it is based on how this routine has already been going. I've made a connection with them where I was able to see when they were thinking the word stop. So at this point, I reiterate that. I say, now you did so good with the stop thing. Just scream red or black in your mind. Right? Okay, I'm getting black. The card is black. Yes. All right, go clubs or spades. I step through the order. I'm seeing a spade. I almost forget what the card is at this point. Jack of spades. And I'll get down to the actual suit and reveal the card. Are you thinking of the Jack of spades? Bingo. I mean, to them, this trick is over and done. And it was a really good one at this point. Sometimes, and they will think the routine is over. But you have, a bullet left in your gun here because you can tell them what the name is. A little bit later on, you're going to learn some really great techniques from Brent Braun on how to play with the person's name and pick the letters out of their mind and how to be sure where you might, how you can tell what relation this name might be to that person. I'll give you a little preview of what Brent says, is you just always want to imagine who that person is. So if you know the name is Mike, think of a Mike in your life and who that person might be, right? If you know a Mike if your dad's name Mike, well, maybe this person's dad's name Mike. Brent's going to go into detail about those types of effects right now. But for right now, I don't know who Mike is or how they're related to this person. If it's a girl, might be her boyfriend. If it's a guy, might be his dad, right? Or his brother. So a little bit later on, you're going to learn all about how to figure out who that person might actually be from Brent. I just like to kind of tell them what it is sometime. But the name's impossible. There's no way that I could know who the person was that we wrote down, how we got to the Jack of spades. There's no way I could have known any of that. And they say, yeah. I mean, I could try. And then they're screwed at this point because there's no way you could know what the name is. And I always like to take one stab. Is this your brother? Yes or no, it doesn't matter because I'm still going to knock them out with the reveal. But if it is their brother, they're going to lose their mind at this point because there's no way you could have known that. I'm seeing the letter M. Are you thinking, Mike? Is this Mike? It's done. You've killed them at this point. So that is the name and card routine that I love to do. I always, whenever I have my Psypher gimmick in my pocket, I'm like, yes, I can do this routine. If you don't want to use a mark deck, which I understand, there's a way around that as well. Let me step you how I would do that here. The thing about this is that you could just force the card, okay? And that's a very easy thing to do. So the routine would be completely the same. Let's put the gimmick on the face. I would say to the person, go ahead and write the name of somebody on this piece of paper, and they're going to say Steve. Okay. Go ahead and peel the Post-it note off. We're going to use Steve's name to help us select a card. I'm going to get a peek on Steve. Let the card fall back into the box. We're going to use Steve's name to help us choose a card. And as I've spread the deck right there, I'm just going to get a peek on the top card of the deck, 3 of clubs. You could already know what the top card of the deck is, before you put them in the box. But I kind of just like to always double check anyway. So you would know that the top card is the 3 of clubs. We're going to use the deck of cards to help us. We're going to use the name to help us choose a card. Okay. So all you have to do here is put 4 cards on top of the 3 of clubs, right? So as you patter about how the name is going to help us choose a card, you're just going to shuffle 4 cards on top of the 3 of clubs. Now you're going to explain the whole thing where they're going to spell the name in their mind as you deal the cards into their hand. S, T, E, V, E. Did you just think stop? You did. And then you can reveal that it's the 3 of clubs later on because that's the card that you peeked at the beginning. And then you can go on and reveal the name all the same. I love the mark deck because they get to shuffle the cards before it starts, and it's totally, I don't care, right? There's no sneaky moves at all. They can shuffle the deck and you can immediately deal the cards from that position, which I think those are the little details that make any routine stronger, in my opinion. So I'm going to show you how to make that my peek gimmick now, and then we're going to move on to some more routines. Let me show you how I make my Psypher card peek device. I like it, and if not, just go ahead and skip to the next routine. But I wanted to include this on here. I'm going to actually try to make one that fits the whole card. I've never done it before, but I think I know how a way to do it. But like I said before, don't be afraid about cutting this Psypher gimmick. You don't need a ton on that actual card. So first thing I'm going to do is remove this from the blank facer that we already had there. And I'm just going to chop this one up. Now, yeah, you could take the time to make a nice shaved, stripped card. I'm just going to kind of make it ugly like I did before and put a nice straight edge on it here. So I'm just going to come down with my scissors just up there. Right? It's a pretty sharp edge. And I guess we're going to flip it over and do the other side like this. And we'll go like this so I can kind of even it up. Right there. And I'm going to go right down the same way towards the bottom of the card. Perfect. Looks good. So now I'm going to go ahead and put this gimmick rack on it using the same tape. And now I'm just going to trim off the edges there. Shaved gimmick. Now, if you don't want to use it this way later on, you're still going to have plenty to place in the center of a card. So don't worry about trimming this gimmick. And there we go. Now let's just give it a little test run. Place this in my deck. They write something down, I pull it out, get my peek. Oh, I think I got a little double stick tape on there. Yeah. So let's give it another little test run there. That's enough where I can't actually grip the top end of it. This goes into the box. When I want to get my peek, I can peek it, let it fall into the pack, and we're good. So that's how you would make the stripped Psypher card gimmick. Your birthday. Write the month that you were born on the piece of paper, okay?
The month of the year, too?
The year?
Oh, just the month. We don't want everybody to know how old you are, all right? So you're 21, right? No, it's okay. So let me know when you're done. But you forget what? Oh, and then write the day, the number, the day underneath. You good? I'll take the marker back. Thank you. You want some? No. Here, take the Post-it note off so that I can't see it. Okay. Do they know your birthday? Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna use the cards to try to make a connection, and I'll figure out maybe if I can find the month that you're born. I'm gonna deal cards into your hands, so just hold your hands out. Every time I put a card in your hand, I want you to think about the months. So January, February, March, right? When I get to your month, just say stop in your mind, okay? Don't say it out loud, okay? But I'm gonna see if I can pick up on something that might tell me what month it is. Did you just think stop? You did? So you were born in July? Can we try one more thing? No, just look at me. Because you were born later in the month, right? Is your birthday July 22nd? That's a great routine for revealing somebody's birthday using the Psypher card box. I wanted to show you guys different ways of revealing different types of information with the Psypher card. So you're not just limited to playing cards. I know in the last routine we did a name as well, which is super powerful. But I wanted to use the idea of using the deck of cards for motivation to reveal the month again, because I think it's a very good use for the deck. Same thing, same rules apply here. You're gonna go ahead and put the Post-it note on the box. Make sure your Psypher gimmick is reset. Let me show you where it is. I've got my trimmed gimmick that we just made on the inside there, ready to go. I'm going to hand this to somebody and have them write down the month they're born. Now, I had thought originally when I was doing this, and I have performed this in the past this way, I wanted to keep it nice and short for the camera. This is actually a great routine for that old birthdays, deck of cards relationship. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but you can look it up on Google. But there's actually a lot of relations between a pack of cards and the calendar. There's 52 weeks in the year, there's 52 decks of cards, there's 4 suits representing the 4 seasons. If you add up all the values, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way through, you actually get 365 or 67 because of leap year. It's a fun presentation. If you're not familiar with it, just jump on the internet and Google it real quick, because it's actually a really cool thing to talk to your audience about. And it's a good lead into why you're talking about a deck of cards and asking for somebody's birthday. You can tell them those cool facts about the deck of cards and the calendar, and then here, write down the month you were born. So anyway, if you want to use it, go for it. I think it's always a fun presentation. But have them write down the month they were born on the pad. So here they're going to write. And I like to have this separate. I like to keep it in 2 stages, where I'll ask them to write down the month. They actually assume that you're going to ask you for the date as well, but just say, oh no, actually, well, yeah, go ahead, write the day down too. Maybe write it underneath. I kind of want to structure the writing on this as best I can. It's not going to matter if they don't follow your instructions, but I kind of like it to have the month and then the day underneath. It just helps my brain when I'm getting the peak. So they're going to do that, hopefully. Just like that. Okay, great. So you've written that down. Go ahead and peel it off, so there's no way that I could know what you wrote. They throw that in their pocket. Now you're going to get the peek on the thing. We're going to use the deck of cards to find your birthday. It's the same thing like the last routine. You're going to pull the cards out, and you're going to get your peek. It's going to say April 18th right there. Let the gimmick fall back into the box. Okay. It's not going to matter. We're not using the cards for their faces. We're only using them as objects here, because we're going to use them to deal into the spectator's hands. I'm going to say, okay, obviously your month has a number related to it. In this case, we know that April is 4, right? We know that the month that you're born has a number associated. I want you to think of that number, okay? You have that number in your mind? Perfect. I'm going to deal cards into your hand. When I've dealt that many cards into your hand, I want you to scream stop. And I'm going to see if we can figure out what month you were born. Just do this all in your mind, okay? And you're going to start to deal cards in their hand. Now, it could be the first card, right? So just keep that in mind. But what you're doing here is you're looking at their face and you're trying to see when they're screaming stop in their head. It's funny, sometimes you can actually see the moment they do, because you do know when they're actually supposed to be doing it, right? So you're going to deal cards. This is all presentation here. 3, 4. I know that they're screaming stop now, but you might even, oh, wait a minute, did you just scream stop? Were you born in April? Boom, okay, that's the big hit. And then you can take the deck, place it back in the box, put the cards away, and then say, but the day would be impossible. There's no way that I could know that you were born on the later end of the month, the 18th. If you do star sign stuff, this is a great routine to intertwine that type of thing as well. Reveal the day, and it's a great routine where you can actually learn somebody's birthday. So here's a great example of using Psypher in kind of a different way. Up until now, we've been using it to reveal direct pieces of information. Names, cards, birthdays, right? Here's a way of using it as like a utility, okay? Because we're going to be doing card at number. And this is a fun piece that I've performed several times in some parlor shows that I've done. And I think it's a great routine. And it's all we're doing with Psypher is gaining knowledge of the number and then using some other card techniques to get there. Let me step you through it. First of all is the target deck. This is the deck that we place on the table, okay? Now, I'm going to say right now that I'm using a stacked deck. I have this deck stacked in Mnemonica. That's the stacked deck that I use. I'm going to show you ways to do this without a stacked deck. But again, if you're somebody out there that knows a stacked deck, think about ways that you could be using Psypher to your advantage, tricks that you already know how to do. It's really powerful. In that case, this is something that I've enjoyed doing with Mnemonica. So this deck is in Mnemonica. Okay, it's in the box, it's in Mnemonica. And that's not going to matter coming up. I'll show you how you do it without. What's also interesting is that this deck could be sealed, okay? There's some packs of cards now that come stacked in Mnemonica if you're somebody that uses it. So that's kind of nice. Or you can always reseal the deck. I don't think it's that important, but what's interesting about it is that you can say before anything starts, look, this deck is here on the table. Before anything happens, nobody's going to touch it. In fact, I'm never going to touch it, and you will never touch that deck right there, okay? So now you're going to have somebody think of a number, and we're going to do a standard Psypher thing here. We're going to get the piece of paper, you're going to put it on the box, and they're going to think of a number. In this case, let's just say they think of 11. Okay, right there. So they write down 11. Perfect. Now we might need that number later, so I want you to peel it off and hide it so nobody knows it. And that person is the only person that knows what that number is until you know in just a second, right? So after you take the card box back, you say, okay, great. So you're thinking of a number. Now we're also going to have a card chosen. So I'm going to get my peek. I'm going to take the cards out because we're going to have a card picked now, right? So I'm going to see the number 11 and take the deck out. Now, I know, because I know mnemonica, that the 11th card in the deck there is the Queen of Hearts. Okay, because I just have that memorized. And again, I'll show you a different way of doing this in just a moment. But that's it. I peaked 11. I now know that I need to find the Queen of Hearts. Now, you can also have this deck stacked in mnemonica already, but it's not necessary because I can take the cards out and show it to everybody. I can say, okay, now you're thinking of a number. I have a regular pack of cards here, and as I do, I'm just going to spread through and find the Queen of Hearts. It's right there, right? I have a regular pack of cards here. I'm going to have you choose a card, one of these cards, in just a moment. And now you get to do whatever force that you want. I've cut the Queen of Hearts to the top of the deck. You can do a classic force, you can do a riffle force, anything. You just need to force this Queen of Hearts on the other person. I prefer the classic force. I'm not going to go through that right now, but just so you can see my mechanics on it, this is a little tip from my friend Terry Ward gave me a long time ago. Whenever you're doing the classic force with the card on the top of the pack, when you're going to cut it to the center, I just like to leave, instead of a break, use a step. So just cut the deck so that that queen is right there. So now that when you spread, you're just eyeballing that when it arrives there as well. All right, so that's just a nice little tip on the classic force. I thought I'd throw it in there. But anyway, force the card by whatever means. You know how to do it already, okay? Once the Queen of Hearts is forced, and that's the card they're thinking of, you can have them place it back anywhere you want in the pack, put the cards away, and you're home free from here on out. You're thinking of a number, nobody knows what that number is. You're thinking of a card, of course, nobody knows what that card is. That deck of cards has been sitting here the entire time. Have the person with the number pick it up. They do. They take it out of the box. They can also deal these face up. No big deal, right? Go ahead and deal your number. Of course, nobody knows your number. When you get to the number with the card, don't turn it over just yet. Give them all the instructions here. So they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could even stop them here and say, you know what the number is, so you know when a good time to stop them before they get to it is. I know it's 11, so I'm going to stop them at 5 here. You haven't seen your card yet, have you? No. Okay, that's important. Continue. 6, 7, 8, 9. Of course, I know what their number is, but they don't know that. I might stop them again. Have you seen it? No. Do we have much further to go? No. Okay, great. 10. And then whenever you get to their... One of the instructions you give them before you get here is that when they arrive at the card, at the number, place it to the side face down. So now we know that they've stopped at the card that they're on the number that they're just thinking of, right? 11. 11's the number that you were thinking of. Correct. Okay. You also picked a card before anybody opened this deck here. What card did you think of? And then you can build this. The secret to card number a lot of times is just recapping and building and building and building and recapping, making it completely fair. But get them to agree that, yes, it would be impossible if my card that they're just thinking of is at that number. And of course, you turn it over and it is the Queen of Hearts. Okay? So that's just a really cool way of doing card at number with the Psypher gimmick. Now, let me show you how I might do it if I didn't want to use a memorized deck. So the secret is that you have to have both packs be the same. So I'm going to take a moment to set that right now, and then we're going to come back and take a look at it. All right, we're back. Like I mentioned, the secret to doing this without a memorized stack is having both decks kind of stacked the same. But there's a little bit more to it than that as well. Let me show you what I've done here. This is my my red deck. This is my target deck up here. And all I did was remove the 5s and the 10s and the ace of spades. Okay, that's what these are up here. Let me up jog the ace of spades so you know where that is, right there. and just shuffled the rest of the cards, okay? So these cards down here are just in a random shuffled order, and then I've matched that order with my blue deck down here. This is the deck that we used at the beginning. So if you take a look, ace two, all the eights, the seven, that completely matches. And we also have these cards up here. The reason I've up-jogged them is because these are our key cards to tell us where cards are in the pack. It's actually easier than it looks. Let me show you what I mean. All I've done is set up these 5s and 10s in chased order. If you're not familiar with chased order, it's clubs, hearts, spades, diamonds. It's a great way to remember certain sequences like what we're doing here. So I know clubs, hearts, spades, diamonds. I know this club is the 5th card. I know that this 10 is the 10th card. I know the 5 of hearts is the 15th card. This is the 20th card. 25th, 30th, 35th, 40th, and then the ace of spades is the 50th card. So knowing that sequence with those cards in that position of the deck, I could, if somebody was to write down 12, I would understand that the 12th card in this pack is the 9 of clubs. I would just go straight to the 10 of clubs because I know in my chased order that 10 is going to be number 10. So it would be the 9 of clubs right there. So all I'm going to do is set this up real quick so you can see me do it. We get the 5 of clubs, which is going to go right there in my pack here. 10 of clubs, which goes between the 4 and the 3. Okay, 5 of hearts, that goes between the king and the jack. 10 of hearts, card number 20, that's going to go 7 between 7 and the 4. And the 5 of spades between the 4 and the queen. Again, these cards have no order down here. Just shuffle a deck and mimic it at the top. Because of this, really, the point is you don't have to memorize these cards, so don't even worry about it. The king and the 3, perfect, right there. And this 10 goes between the jack and the 6, right here. Now, obviously with my little code, there's not enough cards to do the 45th spot right there. I mean, you could put a card that you could remember there if you want to, but one of the things that you kind of want to avoid with card number anyway is having anybody write a number that's too big. Right? So in your presentation, if you don't want them to say one of these, just be like, maybe keep it below 30 or something. It's not necessary to have to count down 47 cards or something like that. So anyway, the ace of spades goes in the 50th position right there. Okay. Now these match, and now we understand how to find any card in the pack. This deck goes into the box here. Your pack, which goes in your box, which is falling on the floor right here. You get your Psypher gimmick on the face of it. Let me just reset it. Last time we used 11 there. Put that on the face of the deck. And same thing. You're going to have somebody think of a number, and it doesn't matter what number they think of. So in this example, let's do something that's not a 10 or a 5. Let's do, I don't know, 7. So they think of 7, okay? You say, okay, peel this off. So we might need that a little bit later. And don't forget the number. You're the only one that knows it. As I'm going to have you pick a card. As you do, you're going to take this out. You're going to get a peek on the number 7. Let the gimmick fall into the box as you take the deck out. So now I don't know what the 7th card is in this deck, but I'm about to find out, right? Because I'm going to turn to my spectator here and I'm going to say, now, in a moment, you're going to choose any card in the pack. And I'm going to look for my 5th card in the deck, which is that 5 of clubs right there. I know that it's just 2 cards to the right of that. So the 7th card in this deck is the Queen of Spades. Yeah, you could just count from the beginning too, but if they say something a little bit bigger, which maybe we'll do another one here in a moment, it might get a little bit more problematic. So you know that the 7th card in this pack is the Queen of Spades. So I'm going to turn to the person here. I'm going to say, now in a moment, I'm going to have you pick a card, okay? I'm going to cut that Queen of Spades to the top of the deck. Force the card. You know, you do a riffle force. Any way you want to do it, force that Queen of Spades because the Queen of Spades is the 7th card in that deck, okay? Let's say they said well, let me get this Queen of Spades back to the beginning. I think the Queen, yep, that's how it was. All right, let's say they said the 33rd card in the deck. Well, when you get your peek, so let's just pretend I take this out and I read 33, okay? So I'm going to let the gimmick fall back into the box. I'm going to say to my friend over here, I'm going to have you choose a card. Now, I know Clubs, hearts, spades is the third one, so I'm going to be looking for the 10 of spades, okay? I'm going to spread through and say, in a moment, I'm going to have you choose a card. Now I can see the 10 of spades right there. So I know that the 33rd card in this pack is the king of spades, okay? So I'm just going to cut the king of spades to the top of the deck and again, force it. And then whenever, during your presentation, you take this deck out, have them count down, and that card will be at the same number. I hope that's clear. Okay, but think about other ways that you could use numbers. If you do any trick with numbers, well, think about how you could use Psypher to get a peek on that number and use it in a more, maybe sometimes you have to force that number. You use it so it can be even more impossible in your routines. Now, speaking of routines, I'm excited for you to see this next routine. This is my friend Brent Braun, and he's been doing Psypher probably more than anybody else on the planet. He's developed a routine that he's been doing for years now. It fools laymen, it fools the crap out of magicians, and he's teaching it on video here for the very first time. So I'm going to hand it over to my friend Brent. I hope you enjoy it.
You know what's cool though? As soon as I saw you, Garrett, I thought you and I,
we got a connection.
We got a connection.
I feel it.
I think you and I can make impossible shit happen, Garrett. I'm pretty sure. Now we're going to start off simple and we'll build to impossible. So we're going to draw a couple lines on this Post-it note for a couple of different thoughts. I'm going to have you think of some things and I want everybody to know what you're thinking, but I don't want you to say it out loud, right? Because that would be silly. So I'm going to have you write it down on the Post-it note. So we're going to start on the top line. I want you to think of any number you want between 1 and 10 and write it down on the top line on the Post-it note. Any number you want between 1 and 10. Okay. We're going to start out simple, Garrett, and then we'll build up to impossible. Okay. You got it? I want you to go down to the second line, and I want you to write the initials of any playing card you want, Garrett. So before you do that, if you're thinking of the 2 of clubs, you'd write a 2 into C. You don't have to draw a club, because maybe you're not artistic, and I want them to be able to know what you're thinking of, right? So if you're thinking of the 2 of clubs, you'd write a 2 into C. You don't have to think of the 2 of clubs, though. That'd be silly. Any playing card you want, though, and write it down on the second line. Cool? Okay. Yep. And then on the bottom line, I want you to write the first name of somebody close to you, somebody that's not here at this event, and somebody that I couldn't know. Okay, I'll keep my head turned. First name of any person you want.
Just the first name?
Just the first name, yeah.
I apologize. I've got
That's okay. I'll turn my head. I want you to show that around everybody so they can see what you've written, so everybody has that information. And then peel that note off and hide it away somewhere, Garrett. Yeah, just hide the note away somewhere. Yeah. That way I don't know what the information is. You can drop the box of cards on the table. We don't need that. And you can recap the marker. That just keeps it from drying out. That's why they have lids. That's a true story.
That's a great trick.
We're going to start with the number. Obviously, it's a number between 1 and 10, yes?
Sure.
That means it's either higher than 5 or lower than 5.
That's right.
I don't want you to say anything. I want you to just think, because we're going to go piece by piece here, Garrett. So I want you to just think higher than 5, lower than 5. Don't say just think it higher than 5. I got it. Okay. The number you're thinking is higher than 5?
Yeah.
Oh, not only that, number you think is 8, high 5. We got the connection, Garrett. You're doing great. You're doing great. No, that was great. That was great. Let's go for the card now, right? The card was either red or black. Again, don't say it. Just think it. Think about what the card was. Red or black, red or black. I got it. It's a black card, yes? You can tell me. Was it black?
No.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
If you remember, this doesn't work. I'll let you peek, Garrett. I apologize. We'll see you again.
Yeah, not black.
It was not a black. Oh, I know what happened. Here's what happened. When I asked you what card you were what color the card was, you thought about what you wrote down, and you wrote it in black ink. When I tell you to think of what you wrote down, don't think of what you wrote.
Oh.
Think of that object. So think of the card instead of what you're. Oh, it's a red card. Yeah, I got it now, Garrett. There you go. Now we're back on track. I got it. I know what card it was. I think. Don't change your mind. Don't change your mind. But I think I know what card it was.
Right? Am I still right?
Yeah, I think this card right here. What's the card you're just thinking of?
Do I say it?
Yeah, you can say it out loud.
7 of diamonds.
Was it really?
Yeah.
You can show. No!
No, man, no. Okay. But the next one's easy and possible.
Now look. I was going to say.
Are you familiar with Satan? Because that's dark magic, and I don't approve of it.
I like it. You can go to mass or something to make up for it, right? Can you do something? We'll all be okay here. Go to confession. So let's be honest though, right? It's not a great trick. It's just a trick. He thinks of a number between 1 and 10. I guess what it is. Maybe I'm a really good guesser, right? I mean, so it's a 1 in 10 chance if I just guessed. Then you think of a playing card. I tell you the playing, but the name's impossible, right? I've probably never even met this person, right? Probably never been in the same room. I was going to say, I've probably never been in the same room with your mom. Is it your mom's name?
No.
No, but it's a female.
It's a female.
That's in your life. Are you currently living with them? Or did you used to? Okay, that makes sense.
I'm still living with her.
And she's kind of a mom figure. Let's be honest here, Garrett. Let's go here.
That's a little too true. Yeah, it's my wife. But
Oh, okay. No, that's okay. Let's. Here's the problem. When you think, wait, this is weird. I just got to. Did she recently have a birthday, or is she about to have one?
She's about to have one.
Right, because it's been a weird thing.
Yeah.
Do whatever
about to have a
listen.
birthday.
Do whatever she wants. I know you're thinking about that a lot. Do whatever she wants. Whatever that thing
No,
is.
that's magic.
No, I'm just
She's
saying.
gonna have a birthday in a month.
I'm just saying. Whatever that thing is, do that thing, and she's going to be happy. But here's the problem: you're thinking about her too emotionally, and I'm just getting flooded with information. I totally understand why. So let's do this. I want you to think of all the letters in her name.
Okay.
Just mix them up and think of a letter, Garrett. Do you have one?
Yeah.
Are you thinking letter N? Oh, you thought of it, but you changed to a Z. Is that what you're thinking? Was the letter Z? Yeah, it was the Z. It was weird. It came through backwards that time, but that's okay. You're thinking of the Z.
Yeah.
But there was an N at the end, right? You thought of the N and then changed to the Z. That's okay. There's two. There's two N's.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's got to be Suzanne. Yeah. When you go to Suzanne, tell her Britt and just Suzanne. Hi.
Where's your card?
Yeah, show
It's
everybody
in
what
my
you
back
got.
pocket, man. What?
Hi, I'm Brent Braun, and what you just saw was my presentation of Psypher. I like to call it 3 thoughts. And what 3 thoughts allows you to do is get 3 bits of information from a spectator that naturally build. So you can get a number between 1 and 10. You can get the name of any playing card. You can find the playing card they're just thinking of. And then impossible, you can tell them the name of a loved one and also the relationship that they have with that loved one and do a little bit of cold reading there. We'll talk about that in a minute in the explanation. But what's really clever about this is not only do we use Psypher, the impression device, but we also use another technique which makes it impossible for people to believe that you're using an impression device. We'll talk about that. So when you start 3 thoughts, what you're going to do is have a Psypher onto the face of a playing card. So this is the device itself cut to size, placed onto the face of a playing card. On the top card of the deck, I also have the other Joker. The other Joker has the magnetic eraser taped to it. That's just so we can reset in real time in front of the spectator. So the eraser is on top of the face-up deck. Psypher is on the face of the face-up deck. That's the setup. This thing goes into the box. I like to put it facing the tab just so I always remember which way it goes in. If you do make a mistake with this setup, you're going to put the Post-it note on the wrong side of the box before you hand it to a spectator. So always make sure you place it the same direction. I always put it on the busy side of the box with the spade. That way I always know that Psypher set up that direction. When I stick my Post-it note here, that's going to be the correct side and we're going to be ready to go. So that's sort of the setup. Here's a couple of interesting things that are happening here. When we go to write on this, a lot of people ask all the time, how do you justify having the spectator write information down? The first step is don't worry about it, right? You're sort of already overthinking it. But what I do is I tell them, I want you to think of a couple of things, and I don't want you to forget what they are. I also want other people to know, but I don't want you to say it out loud. Right? So that justifies them writing it down and then showing it around everyone. So I say, I'm going to have you write down this information, show that around everyone, and then peel the Post-it note off and hide the Post-it note away. Now, when I go to hand them this, the first thing I'm going to do is draw a couple of lines onto the Post-it note. I'm going to draw the first line up sort of high on the Post-it note, so there's not much room between here and here. I'm going to draw the next one down a little lower, the third one all the way to the bottom. There's a reason this is written up near the top. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. Now, I have the spectator write a number between 1 and 10. On the top line. Any number they want. Think of a number between 1 and 10 and just write that down on the top line. So the spectator writes that number. Then I say go to the second line down. I want you to write the initials of any card you want. And this is where I sort of re-emphasize. I say, but make sure you write it clearly so everyone can see what you've written. As a matter of fact, you don't even have to draw the shape. You can just draw the initial. So if the card were the 7 of hearts, you could just draw a 7 and an H. You don't need to draw a heart or a club or one of those things because that could be more difficult for everyone to understand what you're thinking of. But any initial for any playing card you want. So now they think of a playing card, they write the initials down here. That information's here. Now I go down to the third line, and the phrasing for this third line is going to be very important. I say I want you to think of somebody close to you that's not here, not at this event, and somebody that I couldn't possibly know. It's important that I tee up the first words with someone close to you, because immediately someone's going to pop into their mind, usually someone that they live with. That's going to be their mother, their sister, their brother, their husband, or their wife, and that's going to help us in just a moment when we get to sort of guessing information about what that name is. So then they get to here, they write that name down on the third line. Okay? This is all pretty standard for Psypher stuff. People also ask, like, why are you writing it on the box? Aren't people suspicious of that? Number one, no, right? I'm going to have them write information down. I want it to be secret. If they wrote it on the table, maybe I could see it. So if I just put the Post-it note on, hand it to them, they just go with it. You don't question it, you don't make a big deal of it. They never open the box, they just follow your instructions. I just say, here, take this, think of a number between 1 and 10, write it on the top line, and then I sort of go into the presentation. Remember, we're making it very clear to them, though, that they want other people to know what that information is. We do that so they don't write this as a mess, right? We don't want them to write really small and then we can't see it. That's why we tell them, I want you to be able to show it around to other people so they can see what it is. I'll keep my head turned and then I turn. So now this is pretty standard Psypher stuff. Normally in Psypher, when I turned back around now, I would have to open the card box immediately to get any of this information, right? Because the impression device is inside. But what we want to do is structure this routine, and Three Thoughts is structured in this way that it seems like the box is completely unimportant, right? Because if we can convince the spectator that the box isn't the method, then in theory, the impression device can't be the method, right? Because it's not the box, it's a method. So we have a different method that we're going to use for the number. That's going to then convince people that it's not the box. Because when they peel the Post-it note off and throw the box on the table, I'll say, look, put the box on the table. We don't even need it. It's not important. Let's start with the number, concentrate on what the number was. Now when I'm able to tell them what the number is before I've touched the box, everyone in the room is fooled, right? Because they're convinced that it's not the box now. Now when I finally do go to get the card, I always say before I take the deck out, I always say, I know exactly which card you're thinking of. At this point, I won't know what card they're thinking of, but I always lie and tell them that to justify me removing the cards, taking out the card that they're thinking of, and revealing that. But I always want them to believe that I want them to remember later that I told them the number and the card before I ever touched the box. If they believe those two steps, then they can't believe that the box is the method, which is what makes Three Thought sort of so incredible. So how do you get the number? That's the big question, right? Believe it or not, it's a really, really old technique, and I think it's a technique that many people overlook. I actually learned about it in 13 Steps to Mentalism. This is step 2, right? If you don't own that book, go out and buy that book, 13 Steps to Mentalism. It's full of a lot of classic mentalism techniques that are overlooked, I think, by modern sort of performers. But there's a lot of great stuff in there. This is step 2 under a chapter called pencil, sound, and muscle reading, I believe is what that's called. What we're doing is pencil reading. Now, when I tell you that, people sort of get scared because it feels like this thing that's overly complicated. But I'm going to teach you how to do it, and then I'm going to teach you a technique that makes it work 99% of the time. Also, remember, in this routine, the least important part of information is the number. So if you miss the number, forget about it. Just move forward. At the beginning of this trick, I sort of say, we need to get in tune with each other. We're going to start off simple, and then we'll build up to impossible. The number is the least important part. So if you miss the number, don't worry about it. But I'm going to teach you how to get the number now using that pencil reading technique almost 99% of the time. So let's talk about, earlier I talked about when I draw that first line on top of the Post-it note, I draw it up very high. The reason I draw it up high is I sort of want the pencil to come over the top when they write. You can still pencil read if they're down here, it's just more difficult, right? But if the pencil is up high, it's going to be easier to pencil read. Now, the way I pencil read is sort of what I call the window. So I imagine that this pad is a window and that I can see through it. And then I just watch what their hand does when they make the shape for the number. Now remember, we're not pencil reading anything except for a number between 1 and 10. If they go between 1 and 10, they're usually not going to do 1 and they're not going to do 10. So it's really only 8 numbers in the middle there that they can write. So all you have to do is learn to distinguish the difference between a 2 and an 8. And it's a very simple process. I'll do a couple numbers here so you guys can sort of watch and see if you can't follow along. We'll do the easiest number. That's the 7. 7's really easy. Over and down. You'll learn to pick that up really quickly. The next fairly easy number is this. So that's the 3. And again, if you just imagine that you can see through this and you can see me writing it down, I'll do the next number. Okay, that's the 4. You see down and back. Okay, and as you start to practice this, you'll sort of learn what those numbers are and you'll learn how to tell what they are. But let's talk about what's important here. There are only 8 numbers that they can do. There are a couple of numbers that will look similar in the beginning. In the beginning, because you're looking through it, sometimes you'll think that a curly 2 looks like a curly 6. Right? They'll sort of look the same because you're getting this reverse image, the way that you're actually looking through the piece of glass when they write on this, the imaginary piece of glass, of course. A 7, if they draw it European style, sometimes looks like a 2, right? So that can sort of throw you off because you get that same sort of movement across the bottom or across the middle. So 7 and 2 can sort of look similar. A really tight 3 can sometimes look like a really tight 8. Okay? Now you can usually get rid of that by asking them to draw bigger. You're going to sort of get between those two. And then the last one that sort of looks similar is a really loose 9 can look like a really loose 4. Okay? But if you look at here, you'll notice that something started to happen. These are actually separated by high and low. Okay? Every single one of these. A 2 is low, a 6 is high, a 7 is high, a 2 is low, a 3 is low, an 8 is high, a 9 is high, a 4 is low. So one question, let me redraw that again actually. So one question will let you determine if the card is high or low, in case you're caught up between two. If you don't know if it's a 2 or a 7, one question will answer that. If you don't know if it's a 3 or an 8, one question will answer that. If you don't know if it's that, we talked earlier about the curly 2 and the curly 6. Again, one question, high or low, is going to answer that. The next thing we're going to get into is the 4, a really loose 4, and a really loose 9. So that's sort of all of the ones that you're going to get. But one question, higher than 5, lower than 5, is going to solve that problem for you. As long as you can remember that, you're going to be ready to go. You'll notice that all these are lower than 5. All of these are higher than 5. So we're going to be able to pump and get a little bit of information before we get there. Now, it's important when we ask them that question, if I don't know which number they've written, I need to know if it's higher than 5 or lower than 5. So let's say I see this, and I know it's either the 2 or the 7, but I'm not sure which one they're thinking of. I don't know if it's the 2 or the 7. The first thing I'm going to do is try to get them comfortable answering questions. Because if they have secret information, a lot of times they're going to sort of be tight and not want to answer questions. So I ask them a question that they know they're allowed to answer, and that sort of gets them opened up. So I say, you were thinking of a number between 1 and 10, or you're thinking of a number, this is correct. And they say yes. And I say, obviously it's between 1 and 10, is this correct? And they say yes. Now they've given me 2 answers already. They've sort of already verbalized. So when I say, oh good, that means you're good at following instructions. This is going to work out great. That's the other thing. I give them a positive confirmation. Thank you, you did good by answering that question. This is going to work great. So now when I ask the next question, it seems to just fly right by them. So I say, I want you to concentrate. If it's between 1 and 10, that means it's either higher than 5 or lower than 5. Don't say anything. I want you to just think higher than 5, lower than 5. And I'll try to figure out what it is. Oh, I got it. The number you're thinking of is higher than 5. And I guess higher than 5 because I think it's 7, or it could be a 2. If they say yes, it's higher than 5, I immediately go, oh, I've got the number. The number you're thinking of is 7. And they sort of react because I got that correct. If they say no, it's not higher than 5, I go, oh, you're right. Sometimes I get confused when people think of the number 2. Is that the number you're thinking of, 2? And of course, they sort of react that way. So that gives us the out to cover all the high numbers and all the low numbers. This gives us the ability to know what the number is before I ever touch the card box. Now let's talk about what else is happening here. So while they're writing the number, I'm actually watching them write the number, right? So I'm actually staring at them as they do. I sort of turn my body just at a slight angle and look that direction. Once I've pencil read the number, I can now turn my body away because I want it to seem like I wasn't looking the whole time. And at the end, after they've written the name, I'll say, I'll keep my head turned so I can't see anything. I say, I'll keep my head turned. My head wasn't turned at the beginning, but again, I want to sort of implant this false reality in their mind that I was turned the entire time. So after they've written the name, I say, write the name of someone important to you. I'll keep my head turned so I can't see. Okay. So that is the pencil read. Now there are 2 other techniques I have for getting the number as well. If the pencil read doesn't work, let's just say that the guy doing the trick is a bit of a jerk, and when he writes the number, he turns this way and I don't see anything as he comes back. The next technique for getting the number is based on an old card peek, and we might have to film a close-up of this in a moment. But once they've written this number down, I reach forward and I say, on the second line down, I want you to write the initials of a playing card. I use my finger to push the box down, and as I do that, the 7, I can see the 7 right now. Now from your angle, it doesn't look like I can see it, but right now I can see that top line. So all I have to do is bounce that into view a little bit while the spectator's holding it. But as we're here, you do that. I now know the number 7, and then I immediately turn away, but I know what the number is. So that's the second technique. The third technique is to look through the Post-it note. So let's say that he writes the number down, and then I say, I want you to write on the second line, and he's really tight again. He doesn't want me to touch the box. He pulls back. So I can't touch the box again. It's okay. I just say, go to the second one, write the initials of any playing card, then write a name of someone close to you. Once they've done all that, I say, do me a favor, I want you to peel the Post-it note off. And as they peel the Post-it note off, I hear it come away. I turn back and say, let me take the marker so I can recap it. And at that exact moment, I'm able to see the number through the Post-it note, right? The light's going to shine through that Post-it note. You should be able to see it there, I hope, on camera. You'll be able to see that that's the 7 through the Post-it note. And I don't look long enough to get the card. I don't look long enough to get the name. All I want to do is get a quick glimpse of the number, because all we're trying to do here is get the number before we get the card. And then there's one last technique for getting the number. So pencil read is what we start with. We hope that works. If pencil read doesn't work, we do the push down tap. So we tap down the front of the box and get that glimpse. If that doesn't work, the third technique is to have them peel the Post-it note off and just look through the note, right? As I turn back to take the pen. As soon as I hear the Post-it note come off, I turn back and say, here, I'll take the pen and recap that, and now I'm looking through the note at that point. And then the last and fourth final technique is just guess. If you have no idea what the number is, you couldn't get it in any way at all, just guess. With most lay people, I'm going to guess 7. But remember, I always start out, I say higher than 5, lower than 5. Is it higher than 5? And they say yes. I then say, I might be off by 1, but was it 7? Now, what's really dumb about that statement is I might be off by 1, it's 7, that covers 6, 7, 8. So there's only really one number that can miss, and that's 9. So it's really sort of fun to use that technique no matter what. Same thing with lower. If they say, no, it's lower than 5. I say, okay, think about what the number was. I might be 1 off, but was it 3? That covers 2, 3, 4. So this is guessing, and you're going to get close no matter what, just because you have to. But all you're trying to do here is calibrate with them, right? That's what this whole process is. In order to read your mind, we have to calibrate to each other. This is how we're going to do that. You're thinking number, is it lower than 5? I think it was. And also, I don't say, was it lower? I don't ask them, was it lower, right? I say, when you concentrate higher than 5, lower than 5, you're thinking lower than 5. The number is lower than 5, this is correct, right? I don't ask them sort of just openly what the number is. I'm sort of playing this game like I'm getting impressions. Like, I get the impression that it's higher than 5. Is this correct? Yes. I might be 1 off, but is it the number 7? No, it was 8. Oh, I was really, really close. Let's move on to the card. And now we're sort of moving on to the card and doing the second portion of the trick. After they write the number, they're then going to write the playing card and the name. And there's going to be a lot of time between you pencil reading that number and between you revealing the number and revealing the name. So what I do so that I don't forget, and I know this sounds crazy, but if you watch back some of the performances, you may even see me do this. If they're thinking of the number 7, I hold up 2 fingers on my right hand. Okay, because I just assume that the left hand is 5. Anything on my right hand, I'm going to add 2 to that. So I hold up 2 fingers, sort of down to my side, but I'm holding 2 fingers out in a peace sign, even as I'm talking and gesturing. Sometimes you'll see that. But what that means is when I go to reveal the number, I remember 5 plus 2, the number is 7. If the number were 3, I would just hold up 3 fingers over here. I would just have 3 fingers held out to my side, sort of touching my body. And that just allows me to remember that number through the whole process. Because I've done this enough times that I sort of get in the zone, and then when I get back to peel the note off, hide it away somewhere, I go, oh my gosh, what was the number I pencil read? Because it's been so long and I don't want to have to worry about remembering that. So that's just a little cool thing you can do to help remember the number. If it's 1, I just put a 1 down by my side. 5, all 5 fingers. A 10, all 10 fingers. A 9, I don't need to put the 5 here, but I've got the 5 plus the 4 here. I just tap 4 fingers against my body, and now I know later on when I get back to the number, that's going to be the number. Okay, so that's just a mnemonic that sort of, or a physical thing that helps me remember that number, so I never get hung out to dry on that number. So now the issue, the big struggle and problem with pencil reading is there's only one way to learn it, and that's to sort of get in the trenches, watch people write stuff down, and sort of read it. But that's what makes this so good. The rest of the routine is going to be so strong and so powerful that even when you miss the number, it doesn't matter, right? So don't be afraid of this. And don't be worried. Go out and try this pencil reading, and I think you're really going to learn that it's not as hard as you think it is, right? The other thing is you can practice this with other friends. Just have them sit down and write numbers down, and then try to guess a string of numbers. You just sit opposite them, and you all can play this game back and forth. You'll start to learn that really there are only 8 options, and it's really not as difficult as you think it is. It sounds intimidating, and I think that's why a lot of people see it in 13 Steps to Mentalism. They read the chapter, and they go, oh, that would never work reliably, and they move on, right? Because it sounds so intimidating. But I promise, you do this with 5 or 10 minutes worth of practice, and then you do it a couple of times in the real world, you're going to be ready to do this. And it doesn't matter if you miss. That's the most important part, right? I like to sort of think about this whole routine as sort of fishing with a harpoon gun in the boat. You can fish around for as much of this information as you want, because as soon as you tell them their father's name, it's done. It's over. That's all they wanted was that information. That's what this whole routine is really about. Calibrating with the number, calibrating with the card, and then telling them information that's impossible. So get out there, try it, and I think you'll have fun. So let's talk a little bit more about this, right? So now you've learned to pencil read the numbers 1 through 10, and you're hopefully out practicing that, and you're learning to get good at it. Here's what's interesting about that. Once you can pencil read the number, I'm going to do a number now and let you guys watch it. Hopefully you guys got that number right at home, but if not, I'm going to show it to you in just a moment. Then on the second line down, we have them write a playing card. Here's what's interesting about the playing card. Don't worry about the number first. You could pencil read that, but you don't want to. You don't need to, because you're going to want to open the box anyway before you reveal the card. So they write down the number. Now they're going to write down the suit. You've told them to write down the suit as a letter and not as a drawing for a reason. Pencil reading the suit is actually easier than pencil reading the number. It's a 1 in 4 chance to pencil read the suit. I'm going to write a suit down right now. Hopefully everybody at home got that. I don't know if you got the number. The number was 6. The suit was hearts. Okay? Now let's talk quickly about the 4 suits because they really are super, super easy to pencil read. And remember, I'm not going to try to pencil read the number for the card. The value I don't want. All I want to do is to be able to get the suit. The suits are really easy. The club and the spade, you never lift the pencil. So the club comes left to right. And this sort of half circle, you never lift the pencil. So from this side, it's just that. The spade zigzags. So if you watch the spade, never lift the pencil, and I get that zigzag. That's the spade. Never lift the pencil, zigzag for the spade, right? The heart is the only one where you lift the pencil twice. Down, over, down. Lift the pencil twice. 1, 2, down. Does that make sense? The diamond is the one where you lift the pencil once. So a uppercase D looks like this. That's D, right? That's the D. So that's lift the pencil once to make that D. The lowercase d, if they make that, looks like this. Usually the same thing, right? It also starts at the bottom and comes back to the top. So now you've learned to pencil read the suit, which is super, super incredible. Now think about what happens now. They think of a number between 1 and 10. They think of any playing card they want. And before you ever touch the box, you're able to tell them exactly what number they're thinking of. Then you're able to tell them the color of the card. Because you could just say it's a diamond. But you know what? Let's get as many yeses out of that diamond as we can. We know all diamonds are red, right? So I say I want you to just think red or black. We're going to break down the playing card. Just think red or black. It was either a red card or a black card. Oh, I got it. You're thinking of a red card, aren't you? And we get a yes there. You get a moment of astonishment there that you could have blown away had you just said diamond, right? But now all of a sudden you're getting more yeses. If it's a red card, that means it's either a heart or a diamond. Again, don't say anything. Just think heart, diamond, heart. I get the impression you're thinking of a diamond. Is that correct? It is a diamond? Yes. I know exactly which card you're thinking of. Always say those words before you open the box, because you want them to believe you know what the card is. You don't want them to believe that the box is giving you information. Now when you take the cards out of the box, you're going to be able to read all that information. Not only are you getting that information, but at this time you're also getting the name. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. So that's also when you take the cards out of the box, you have to take the card physically out of the deck, right? If they wrote down 9 of diamonds, you have to take a 9 of diamonds out and physically lay it on the table because that justifies everything. In the process of doing that, I leave the device on the bottom. Psypher's still on the bottom of the deck. The eraser's still on the top. The reason I do that is as I'm taking out the 9 of diamonds, I up-jog the card. I'm actually reading the name now on the bottom line. Now what's cool about that is that they write sloppy. I've got all the time in the world to sort of think about the card, concentrate on the card. If I can't read the name, I don't know if it's Sonia or Sunny, because they've just written sloppy there, I'll up-jog 3 cards, and I have so much time to sort of be reading this bottom line to see what they've written, right? And I go, no, you're not thinking of this card, you're not thinking of this card. I now decide that I think the name is Sunny. I take the card out, I lay it down on the table, and I say, I think I got it. What's the card you're thinking of? Now the name is still here. I don't cut it into the deck to hide it. That's what I think a lot of people would do immediately, is because you want to get rid of the dirt. Don't worry about that. No one's concerned about looking here. But if I forget the name, and sometimes that happens, if I forget the name, I can sort of pick up this card, and as I put it back in the deck, now I get one more glimpse as I put it away. So I say, oh, you were thinking of the 8 of clubs. Man, I got lucky on that one. Do me a favor, concentrate on what the name was. And as I'm putting the card away, I'm reading the name one more time. So let's talk a little bit about the name. So we'll talk a little bit more about the entire structure. This is what's happened. An audience member has written the number 3. I've pencil read that, so I know they're thinking of the number 3. I also pencil read that it's a club. So I've already guessed the number. They've peeled this note off and hidden it away. I've already guessed the number. Then I've guessed the suit of the card. So I know it's a club. So I want you to concentrate on the card. Think about what it was. I dump the cards out face down, so you don't see the Psypher gimmick. As I dump it out, I bring it up here. And then I can see all the information now. So this is what that peak is actually looking like when it comes out of the box. Okay? And remember, because of the magnetic technology, it's going through the Post-it note, through the cellophane, through the box, and onto the device, and I'm still getting this nice read. Okay? So I've already got the number. I now see that it's the 2 of clubs. As I look through for the 2 of clubs, I'm going to now start looking at the name. The important part is to not take them out and immediately look at the name. You want to take them out and immediately look for a card. So I ignore the name at first, and I just start spreading through looking for the 2 of clubs. Okay, so I look for the 2 of clubs, and I find the 2 of clubs. I up-jog the 2 of clubs, and now for the first time, while I'm looking at the 2 of clubs, I look down and start getting the information from the name. So now I'm looking at the name Terry. If this were sloppy, I've got time to sort of adjust that and read it. So maybe I don't know if that's an O or an E. Maybe it's Tori. Maybe it's Terry. I'm not sure which one. In a normal peek, you get 1 second. In a peek wallet or some other peek devices, you're peeking as you're putting something away, or you're peeking as you're taking it back out. In a Post-it note, you might peek as you riffle it or tear the sheet off. You're getting sort of 1 second to 2 seconds to look at that name. And if you can't sort of read the name, you're up the river, right? There's nothing you can do about it. In this situation, I have all the time in the world to read the name. A couple months ago, I was doing this at a corporate gig, and a guy wrote a name down in a foreign language I can't even speak. So when I pulled this out, I pulled out the card he was thinking of, and then I upjugged a couple other cards, and I thought to myself, what am I going to do? I don't even know what this language is. And then I realized I could memorize what it looked like. So it was like a box with an eyebrow, a backwards L, a 3 with a slash through it, and a circle. Right? I don't know what that means. I don't know what it is, but I memorized what it looks like. Then I took out my business card. I wrote it down on the back of my business card. I laid it down, and then everyone at the party went crazy, right? Because not only did I tell him the name of his brother who he hasn't seen in 30 years that lives in Pakistan, but I also wrote it in a language I don't even speak. It's a pretty phenomenal moment, yeah. But that's because we've got all the time in the world to figure that out. And also remember, we've sort of teed it up properly by saying write it down clearly so everyone can see it. But this is an example where I may be confused if this is Terry or Tori. So I can take a little bit more time and decide that it's Terry before I take out the 2 of clubs they're thinking of, lay it face down on the table, I square up and I lay this down on the table. So now it's there, okay? Again, I don't cut that into the middle of the deck because I'm doing this and I might forget under pressure and under this performance, I might forget that the name, because I'm doing this a lot of times, I might forget what name they've written down. So I want to make sure if that happens that I can pick this back up, put the card back in after I've gotten the card right, and I've got one more opportunity to reread that name, okay? But so now I know the name and I'm set up and ready to go. I put the card back here. Once I get the name right, all I do now to reset in front of the audience is I say, isn't that crazy? Because he could have thought of any name in any card. I'm going to peel off both the top card, which is my magnetic card, that's just the Psypher magnet cut down and double stick taped to that card. Then there's the Psypher card. I'm going to peel them both off, and as I rub them together at the table, I'm actually erasing them right in front of the audience, but they have no idea. Okay? Once I erase them, I put one on the top, one on the bottom again. These go back into the box, and that's reset. So let's talk about what that looks like from their side. I say you're thinking of a name. The name starts with a T. There's an R. The name you're thinking of is Terry. Is it Terry? And they go, oh my gosh, yes. And I go, isn't that crazy? Because she could have thought of any name or any card. I mean, it's impossible that I could have known that information. But thank you guys so much for helping me out. And then I put this here. These go back in the box, and I'm reset and ready to go to the next table. Speaking about that, this is interesting. As a worker in the real world, Post-it notes, I can't carry, right? I can't put a whole pocket full of Post-it notes in. And what do I do when I'm done with this? Do I wad it up and throw it on the table? Do I leave it behind? It's just sort of messy to have a Post-it note. So what I've come up with, which is really sort of clever, is a portable dry erase pad. All you do is cut a piece of regular white paper with a pair of scissors to fit behind the cellophane. So the cellophane is still on my box, right? When I peel that off, I just peel it off nice and clean, cut it with a razor knife and peel it off nice and clean. Now this is here. If I take the white note, put it in the cellophane, now I have what is essentially a portable dry erase pad. So there's nothing extra for me to carry, right? I've got the 2 jokers that are set up to do the trick. That's the Psypher plus the eraser. Those are in my regular deck of cards. If I'm going to do regular card tricks, all I do is take these out. I get rid of the jokers. I lay them on the table. It doesn't change anything. Now when I'm ready to set this back up, this one goes here, this one goes here. These go back in the box and I'm ready to go. So no extra things that I'm carrying at all. Now because this is cellophane and the Psypher Sharpie is dry erase, I can do exactly the same routine with dry erase. Right? I have them think of a number between 1 and 10. They write that down. I pencil read it. Then I have them write down a playing card. Then I have them write down a name. And that's all the information. I have them show that around to everyone, make sure everyone sees what it is. And then when that's done, that's dry erase. You can just take your hand and you can just wipe those thoughts away forever. And as they wipe those thoughts away, there's actually a really nice psychological convincer here because they're used to dry erase boards. Once they erase that, they believe the information's gone forever, right? What we know is that it's actually been captured inside of the Psypher gimmick. That's all the information we need right there. So let's talk about what this whole routine is really about. This whole routine is really about telling someone not only the name of someone that you don't know, but telling them the relationship and a little bit of information about that name. And if you're watching the performances, you'll see it. It sort of feels like cold reading, and it's one of the things that I get a lot of good sort of responses with. It's not cold reading. It's really, really simple technique that I just call name association. And all that means is that I tee it up the right way. Number one, I say, I want you to write the name of someone that's close to you, but not at this event, somebody that you don't know. Or somebody that I couldn't know, right? So again, the phrasing is important. I want you to think of someone close to you that's not here at this event, someone that I couldn't know. Now, when I do that, that means I'm almost always going to get somebody that lives with them. That's children, that's grandchildren, that's grandparents, that's a husband and a wife, that's a boyfriend, girlfriend. I'm going to get somebody to have a close relationship with. And that's important because when I glimpse this name Terry, when I see that, I take the cards out, I see the name Terry, I'm now going to make an assumption about the name Terry. Because in the presentation I say, I want you to think about this person, somebody I couldn't know. I've probably never even been in the same room with your wife. Is that true? And they go, oh my gosh, how did you know it was my wife? And all I'm doing is guessing there. Because even if they go, no, it's not my wife. I go, no, it's not your wife, but it's definitely a female figure. It's definitely somebody you spend a lot of time with. I tell you what, let's work on the letters. Let's see if we can't get the letters right. And then I start to reveal the letters in Terry. That's T-E-R-I, right? I just reveal those letters. Now, why do I guess wife? Why do I guess daughter? Why do I guess grandmother? For me, that's all based. It is a guess, but it hits more than a guess would because I'm using intuition. I'm using this thing that, again, I like to call the name association. When I see that name, all I do is associate it to someone I know in my life that has the same name, right? So when I see the name Terry, I only know one Terry in my life. She's about my same age. I went to school with her. She lives a couple of blocks from me. So as soon as I see Terry, I immediately think to myself, this is someone who's in their 30s to mid-40s. That's what I immediately think. Then I look at the person and make an assumption about them. If it's a 12-year-old boy I'm doing this for, and he wrote Terry, I'm going to guess Terry is his mother. Okay? And it's not just guessing, it is association. So if they name the word Stephanie, right? If the name is Stephanie and I glimpse that my wife's name's Stephanie, same thing. I'm going to assume that Stephanie's between the ages of 30 and 50. I'm going to assume that that relationship is based on that. So if the gentleman I'm performing this for is 30, I'm going to guess it's his girlfriend or his wife. If the name is, let me think of Caden, for example, right? Caden is a very young name. I didn't go to school with any Cadens. I don't know a lot of Cadens. My grandfather's not named Caden. So if I see the name Caden, I know a child that lives down the block from me. He's about 9 years old. His name is Caden. And then I immediately sort of describe that person back to them. So I said, this is a younger person, yes? This is weird because I've never been in the room with your son, but is this your son's name? And they react, they freak out. Because not only am I telling them the name, but I'm telling them a relationship. And remember, you don't have to be afraid. This is just like the pencil reading. If you say, I don't know your son, they go, actually, it's not my son. I go, it's not, but it is a male name. It has a Y in it. Is that correct? Yes. And now I'm going to be able to tell them it's Caden anyway, which is the important part. They'll forget that miss forever, but the few times you can tell them that relationship, they'll remember it forever. So, and then another name would be like Emma, right? Emma for me is either a really young child or a really old person. And those two things are sort of, in my mind, I know two Emmas. One's really old, one's really young. I'm going to assume that the Emma, if she's young, is named after a grandparent. So the first thing I'll guess is a grandparent. This is a grandparent's name? And they go, no. And they go, but is this person named after a grandparent? And I'll usually get a yes there because, again, traditionally Emma is an older name, right? Nobody, my age, there's probably not a lot of people graduating high school named Emma this year. So the great thing about this is there's no reason to be worried about getting any of that information right. You can guess the name, you can guess the relationship, you can guess all that sort of information. And it doesn't matter, right? So when I look and I see the word Tom, I just assume that it's an older gentleman. If I say, this is your brother, is that correct? And he says no, I say no, but the person is Tom, and they react to that, right? So there's no reason to be afraid of that at all. Go out there, try it, have some fun. So there's one other thing I wanted to discuss quickly, and that is that sometimes when I have somebody think of the name, I say, do me a favor, I want you to mix up the letters in the name and think of one of the letters, and then I'm able to tell them which letter they're just thinking of. So if you at home play along now, I want you to think of one of the letters in the word Terry there. Just think of one of the letters. Do you have one? Are you thinking of letter R? You should be. Almost everyone does. And that works because they don't think if I just think of a letter myself, it's usually the same one that they're going to think of. So they're rarely going to think of the first letter because I say mix them around and think of a letter. And I sort of put them on the spot quickly to think of a letter. They're usually not going to think of a vowel. So it's usually going to be a hard letter near the middle. So in this situation, almost 90% of people are going to think of an R. If I say you're thinking of letter R and they go no, I say but there is an R in the name. there's an E, there's an I. Oh my gosh, are you thinking of the name Terry? So remember, I still get that hit no matter what. And that'll work with just about any name. All I'm doing is guessing that. A lot of that information actually came from Banachek's Psychological Subtleties. If you don't own this book, rush out and buy it as soon as possible. It's really going to teach you how to take this sort of performance piece and turn it into this incredible mind-reading stunt, right? Because if you just reveal these 3 pieces of information, it's a good trick. But when you reveal these 3 pieces of information and tell them the relationship and the letter they're thinking of, it's an absolute miracle. So that's my routine I call 3 thoughts. Go out into the real world, have fun with it, enjoy the pencil reading, enjoy the mind reading, get at it, and have a good time.
On to the next section. We're going to talk about the Psypher wallet. Now, in your kit, you received this little black business card wallet. I'm going to show you 2 different ways to set this up to use it to obtain information. We're going to be setting it up on a business card, and then we're also going to be setting it up inside the actual wallet, where you're going to get a reverse peek. I know that sounds weird, but I'm going to show you that a little bit later. The first method we're going to learn here is with a stack of business cards. So if you have some, we're going to be putting the Psypher gimmick on a card, and I'm going to show you how to do that, get the peek, and how to use it in a routine right now. So here's the first setup for the wallet. This was the original setup for Psypher by Robert Smith. And this is a great way to obtain anything that you can think of. Names, PIN codes for cell phones, whatever you can think of, this is a great way to get it. It's a very direct peek of any type of information. So the way that he set the wallet up is with a piece of Psypher cut to business card size here. So that's what we got. I'm just going to peel that blue backing off the back there. All right. And I'm just going to give this one a little rub. I hadn't done that yet at the beginning there. So we're just going to move the pieces back and forth. Cool. That should be enough. And we're going to be getting the peak on this side here. So I'm going to move all the filings to the bottom. All right. First thing we're going to do is put this piece of Psypher on a business card. So I have some business cards here. This should be cut right to size. So it actually fits perfectly with any standard, business card size that's out there. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of tape and put it on my business card here. And I think in the second setup that I'm going to show you in just a little bit, I've cut this down. I don't worry too much about this covering the entire surface because it's just not needed. You'll see in performing Psypher, almost nobody ever goes to the edge of the lines, but it is nice to have full coverage. I can't blame you for wanting it. So, but you should just never be concerned about it, is what I'm trying to say. All right, so I want my nice and shiny side to be at the top here because this is the side I want to read the impression on, okay? So I'm just going to stick this right to the business card. Perfect, all right? It's not peeking out or anything. And again, never be concerned about putting tape on this. This stuff just peels right off of it. It's just plastic. It's not going to tear the Psypher gimmick or anything. This is very durable. Okay, so now I have my Psypher gimmick on the back of a business card. This is going to live in this clear area of the wallet right here. All right, I'm going to put this up here. I'm going to put a couple other cards on top of it. All right, just like this. And one tip that Robert used when explaining this originally is that he would leave the card that was closest to the Psypher gimmick. This is the card directly on top of that Psypher gimmick. Just out jog just a little bit. And you'll see why that's important in just a moment. It doesn't have to be crazy or anything. It's just offset from the rest of the cards. All right. He put some extra cards in here just to give the wallet some substance, right? So it's got some things in it. And then this rubber band, this is just kind of I don't know the exact size of it, but it's not a thin rubber band. It's got a little bit of width to it. It's not entirely important. It's just a little bit nicer to have it actually have some width. This goes right over here like this. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. It goes on this side with the clear window. Been talking too long and I'm forgetting everything. Here we go. So it goes right there, just like that. All right. Close the wallet. And now you are ready to perform. Let me get rid of those. Put my wallet back or my magnet back where I know where it goes, and I'm going to ditch the double stick tape. So the way that this wallet works is that you would ask somebody to think of somebody important to them, or maybe the PIN code to their phone. That's always a fun one. You say, actually, I'm going to have you write it down. So what you do is you're going to reach into your wallet and you're going to grab a business card for them to write on, okay? And you want to grab any card other than the actual gimmick. It's actually probably better if you take it from this side of the wallet, right? And this is why that rubber band is there, is because you're going to have the card and place it underneath the rubber band so that it doesn't fall off. It acts like a little clipboard, okay? That's why you want this nice and wide so it grips the business card. You don't want it tight. It just kind of, because you don't want to have to like struggle to get it out. It's just kind of hugging the card so it doesn't fall off. Now, it can also be smart with these routines to have a line already drawn with like an X or something, just so you instruct them to write within this area. Again, I've never had any problem with this. They always just tend to write whatever right there. Another subtle thing about this is that it kind of makes them write bigger too. Might be a nice little tip. If you don't, they might write really small and it could be a little harder to get the peak. Just play around with it and you'll come to an understanding of how you want them to write things down. But from here, this could be any piece of information. Let's go with a PIN code, right? Let's just say that their PIN code is 8426. That is not my PIN code, in case anybody was wondering. So they would write that down on there. Now you can tell them to take this business card away, all right? You put this back in your pocket. Or before you do, you're going to get your peak, of course. Your motivation is to go back into the wallet to get a business card on so that you can write as well. And here's how that works. Now, remember at the beginning, we had those business cards kind of out-jogged just a little bit. That's because we're going to be reaching in and pulling out two business cards. Okay, we'll be pulling out the gimmick and the card above it. Now, you can do this first part in front of the spectator. You can say, I'm gonna use a business card and write down what I think your PIN code is, or what I think the name is, or whatever. Okay, what you're doing here is when you pull it out, you can show them this, but what we're going to be doing is turning this over, okay, so that you can get a full peek on that card, okay? Now, this is all really quick. You're not doing anything suspicious here. You're just taking a business card out of the wallet. So when you turn this over and get your peek, just like that, you can close the wallet and then pull that top card back off. And this, of course, is blank. All right, let me just show you the mechanics of that again. This is the original Psypher method. So this would go in here. After they've written something down, I'm going to use a business card as well to write down what I think you're thinking of. Okay, I get my peak and then I just pull a card out. And that's it. It's at speed. With this in their way, there's no way that anything could have bled through this little wallet, because that is not what they're thinking at this point. There's just no way that there could be anything written on anything on the inside of this. So you don't have to worry about them being suspicious. You're simply just taking a business card out. Now, just great things to do with this is write down the name of somebody important to you, and then and using all the techniques that Brent just taught you, revealing that name in real time. It's a very simple routine to just go out and start doing right now and engaging the reactions that you get on it. So that is the first peek with Psypher. And this is, you can do with any types of information. The next peek I'm going to show you is something that I came up with that's a little different. We're going to be getting a reverse impression, and I'm going to show you that right now. Do you know about ESP at all? Have you guys heard about that? You have? Have you ever had like a test done or anything like that? But you know that these symbols here represent extrasensory perception, right? Well, you wrote on the last one there. Maybe I'll get you to write. Do you know what these are?
No.
Okay, well, these symbols are used to test supernatural abilities. Did you ever see Ghostbusters 1?
It's been a minute. I've seen the remake.
They actually do this at the beginning of Ghostbusters 1. Has nobody seen it?
I've seen it.
Yeah, do you remember this where he shocks the shit out? Okay, anyway, we're going to do that same thing with no electricity, all right?
Okay.
What I want you to do is think about any one, just one of those symbols. Do you got one in your mind?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what she's thinking?
No.
No, me neither. What I want you to do, very similar to the last thing, I want you to just go ahead and draw the symbol that you're thinking of. Now, this would be very easy for me to see, so just keep that hidden. I don't want to see what it is at all right? And let us know when you're done. All right, cap the marker up. Okay, and then take that Post-it note off. Okay, and perfect. Hide that. Okay, I don't want you to think that I saw that at all. All right, I actually have an ESP test here. Okay, I have some ESP cards. So these cards are all 5 different symbols. Okay. Crumple that up, put it in your pocket or something like that, because I need your hands. All right.
Okay.
What I want you to do is go ahead and mix these up so you don't know which one's which, all right? All right, and then you guys, maybe you should mix them as well so you don't know. You were touching them, so maybe you don't know either. Okay, we're gonna lay them on the table here. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna do the ESP test. Think about the symbol in your mind, okay? I'm going to touch 2 of these cards, all right? This is the test. With that symbol in your mind, I want you to touch one, and whichever one you touch, we're going to eliminate, okay? So go ahead and touch either one of those 2. This one right here,
yeah.
It is gone, all right? Now it's your turn. You get to touch any 2 that you like.
Okay.
Those 2. Now I'm going to eliminate one, okay? I'm going to eliminate this one. Now I'll touch 2. These 2 right here. Place your finger on either one of those. Okay. We've arrived at 1 card. Now, this entire time, because we were doing this together, I was concentrating on 1 symbol. I was thinking, and I was picking it up, maybe you were too. I think you were. On the circle? Does that make sense? Oh, this might have worked. I don't know though. Turn that over. Oh! So that's my routine with the Psypher wallet. I originally, when I saw the first setup, I already had my routine with the name, and I liked using the deck of cards for that type of information. So I wanted to use the wallet for something else, which kind of led me down this path of using the actual wallet as the device instead of the business cards. So let me show you what I have here. Again, this is the type of thing where you can customize Psypher to however you want. You know, this is just something that I thought would work, and it turned out that it did. So I hope this inspires you as well. I've made a little ESP kit, and you can see I've been using it for a while. This little sticker's getting a little worn out, but I went ahead, put some ESP symbols on the face of this wallet. This is the same wallet that you had. I have some ESP cards in here. Underneath it is my Psypher gimmick. I'm going to show you how that peak works in just a second. And then I also have some Post-it notes. They look fancy because they're white and they've been cut to size, so they actually sit in the wallet there. The backing of it is just what's holding them in. I don't know if you can see that maybe in the overhead. I just have the back side of the Post-it notes sitting in the pocket there, right? So I've trimmed off the edge of those Post-its, so they're just chilling. And then you can even keep your magnet in the wallet as well, which is pretty cool. Speaking of the magnet and the Psypher gimmick, we're going to be getting a reverse impression, which is also something you can do with Psypher. Let me show you. Now I'm a little bit low on these white Post-it notes, and so I don't have to go open up another package of it. I'm just going to grab my my other Post-it notes here. Oh, actually I have some white ones right here. We'll use these. Now, if you've noticed, I'm actually pulling the iron filings up, okay? Typically, we've always been doing this down, okay? Because we're going to be getting a reverse impression, a negative impression. And what that looks like is this. Let's just assume that, put this on here. If I draw a triangle right now, well, the impression inside the wallet, it's going to be the other way. It's going to be white instead of black, but you can see that it's a triangle. All right. Now, a reverse impression works great, but it doesn't work with words, because if you write a word on here, let's just write magic. It's going to be backwards. All right. SIGAM. It's going to be backwards. So we're going to be doing, with the reverse impression, all you can really do is pictures, okay? Symbols were great because they don't matter. A circle doesn't matter if it's backwards or forwards, a square, squiggly lines, whatever. You can also do pictures as well, which this makes this wallet useful for a drawing duplication, okay? So let me show you my ESP routine real quick. I have here some ESP cards that I made. These are just, I made these at Staples. I just printed out some ESP cards and put them on some nice thick stock. They are also marked. If you're not familiar with ESP marking systems, I just have them marked 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the back side. It's a marking system it's the same marking system that the knock deck uses. I'm not going to go through how the marking system works, but just be aware that I know that which card is which. And if you don't know how to tell ESP symbols apart, it's very easy. So right here, if you look at the circle, well, let's start at the star. The star has 5 points, so this is number 5. Okay, the square has 4 sides, so it's number 4. The squiggly lines, 3 lines right there, it's number 3. The cross has 2 lines, so that's number 2, and the circle it's a circle, so it's number 1. That's the very basic way of associating ESP cards with numbers. And on the back side of these are just marked with numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I know which card is which at all times. I can look down at any card and be like, oh, that's number 5, it's the star, okay? And that's gonna come in handy with the patio force coming up a little later. There's a lot of ESP cards that you can get on the market that are almost all of them are marked on the back side with this same marking system. So you don't have to be concerned about making these cards, but if you are interested in doing this routine, you know, doesn't matter. You can mark these cards any way that you want to. But for me, I whipped up these little cards here. I have the Psypher gimmick, and this is actually smaller than the business card piece that we used earlier. All it is double stick taped to the inside. Let me take it out so you guys can see. Oh, it's really on there. It's been in there for a while. Well, let me get it out. Let me get it out for real. Yeah, it's coming off. Again, if you notice, I'm being pretty rough with this thing right now because this is just a piece of plastic and there's really no way to hurt it. There we go. So I have some double stick tape on the inside of the clear part of the wallet. I think I even got a couple pieces there. This piece is just a piece of Psypher that I cut off. I think my business card size has just kind of gotten smaller and smaller over time here. I'm going to place that on the inside right here. Doesn't have to be in any particular spot, just kind of centered up because they're just going to be writing on that side of the wallet. I think you already saw this set up here, but it's just a Post-it notepad that is right there. And my ESP cards go in here. So here's how the routine goes. I talk to my spectators about ESP symbols. Are you familiar with the symbols? Now I've printed them right here, which is kind of nice. Go ahead and think of any one of these symbols. I kind of like to draw the Ghostbusters reference here. If you've never seen Ghostbusters 1, there's a very funny moment at the beginning of the movie where they actually do an ESP routine. So for me, it's a good way to hopefully, if my audience knows about that scene, they can be like, oh yeah, I've seen that. Oh, we're going to do that. That's cool. It's just a fun little presentation that you might have saw me talk about in the video there. But I have them think about one of those symbols. We're going to take the ESP test. The way it works is I want you to draw it, and I will take off a piece of my Post-it notepad, okay? And then I'm going to lay it on my side with my Psypher gimmick, right? And they're going to draw it, okay? Now we're going to be getting a reverse impression of whatever this is, so it doesn't matter. Let's say they draw the star. We'll go for the most complicated one, right? They draw the star, okay? Perfect. I want you to peel that off. We might need it a little bit later, so hang on to it. Whatever, that goes away. Now you're going to get your peak. And the peak is really easy to get because we're going to get it in the motion of taking out the ESP cards from the packet. So I'm going to say, okay, now to do the test, we need some ESP cards. And all I'm going to do is remove the ESP cards like this. As I do, I get to see the star. And I mean, it couldn't be easier. I just pick it up, take the cards out, see the star, get rid of the wallet. It's that fast. Watch how awesome this is. All I do is push down on the side to get these cards to come out, and then I can see that star and push it down. These could be business cards, okay? If we were doing a drawing duplication, which I'll show you in just a moment, it's the same thing, okay? This goes away. Now I can bring out these cards, so you're thinking of one of them, right? It's right there. I want you to take the cards and shuffle them up. I have them mix them, right? And it doesn't matter where the card is. I know at this point they're thinking of the star, okay? So with them face down, because these cards are marked, I know that the star is right here, all right? I'm going to be doing the patio force. No, patio force is a very simple table force. It's a great utility force, and if you don't know it, this is a great thing to know. I'm going to force them this card, okay? And it's just a fun little process thing where I ask the spectator to touch any two cards, and they can. So let's just say for this example, the way the process works is they're going to touch two, I eliminate one. I touch two, they eliminate one. I touch two, and it just goes back and forth with as many objects as you want, really, until there's only one left. So here's how it goes. They would touch any two cards. Let's just say they touch these two, and I would eliminate one. Now, neither one of these cards that they touched is my target card, okay? So it doesn't matter which one I say. I'm just going to say, oh, this one's eliminated. Now I'm going to touch two cards. Now I'm going to touch any two cards other than the star. Okay, so I'm going to touch these two. The spectator can now eliminate either one they want. So they eliminate that one. Okay, great. Now I'm going to touch two. And I'm going to touch any cards but the star. So I'm going to touch these two because this is the star, right? And they choose one to eliminate. And then I say, this is the final phase. It's very easy. Go ahead and place your finger on either card. Now, if they place their finger on the star, you're just going to casually remove the other card. Keep your finger there. Don't move, right? If they place their finger on the other card, you say, okay, great, it's eliminated. That's it. It's just a very simple force down to one card. Now, the advantage of doing this with a marked card is typically these cards, you could do this with a face-up stack, right? So maybe there's, you could know what all the cards are, but in this case, you don't even know what this card is in the spectator's mind, right? So there's no way that even if they did think it was some sort of force, all these cards have been face down the entire time. Who cares? All you're doing is a fun little process of eliminating down to one card. Right now, you know that it's the star, okay? So this is where you're going to read their mind or tell them what symbol you think that they're thinking of. So you reveal star verbally, and then you also get them to agree. Well, wouldn't it be amazing after all that process if you and I came to the same conclusion, and then you can reveal the star. Okay, so I think that's a fun little ESP routine that you can do. You can make these cards up and have fun with it. I'm also going to show you right now how you can use this to do just a quick drawing duplication with business cards. Drawing duplications are a great mentalism presentation. They're a lot of fun. Let me show you how you can use that same wallet setup using your business cards to do a simple drawing duplication and using the reverse impression. Obviously, you wouldn't have your little ESP symbols on this side. I'm just using the same wallet to demonstrate it for you. I have the gimmick in the same spot. So let me show you where that is. It's right underneath my business card here, right? And I have it set up so all the filings are toward me because we're going to be pulling the impression down in this case, right? So I'm going to place a business card right on top of it. And I still have the Post-it notes on this side. I like the Post-it notes a little bit better because they're more disposable. People can crumple them up. You could have them right on a business card here, but I want a nice, strong impression, and I want it to be about my business card at the end, not the one that they wrote on. Because then it's just two business cards, and who cares? Well, let's just, I'd rather them dispose of the piece of Post-it note, and then I take the drawing out of their mind, as opposed to like duplicating, maybe I saw it on the business card. I use a business card and a Post-it note. That's a long way of saying that. So, business card here, my Post-it notes that are just hanging out there. I say we're going to play a game of psychic Pictionary. You ever play Pictionary where you have to, but we're going to do it using your mind. I want you to think of something simple that you could draw. Okay, reach in, grab a Post-it note, place it on the wallet with the side that has the Psypher gimmick, and hand it to your spectator. And have them think of a simple object. Now, a lot of times you're going to get houses or trees or cars or cats. In other routines, sometimes you might want to eliminate those and make them think of something more elaborate. But since we're going to be getting such a small impression, keep it simple. I like all that stuff. In fact, it's still a great trick if they draw a cat and you tell them what it is, right? So don't be afraid of those with this routine. If you had a bigger sheet of paper, yeah, you can go for whatever you want. But for stuff like this, I like to keep it kind of stupid simple. So just draw any simple object here, okay? And let's say they draw a smiley face, okay? All right. So they take the piece of paper, and you say, okay, take the piece of paper, hide it so there's no way that I could possibly see it, and then I leave the wallet on the table. I like to do a little bit of like cold reading here, and it's some easy kind of fun tips you can do with the drawing duplication, where I'll say to somebody, all right, I want you to imagine what you drew right here, a piece of paper in between the two of us, and just start to draw it with your mind. Start to draw it with your mind. Now, I haven't gotten the peak now. But what's interesting is you can draw with your hand all the simple shapes that I just discussed. And one of them I always draw is a smiley face. So imagine the picture right here between the two of us. Draw a circle in the air, draw a square, draw a house, draw a tree, and while you're doing it, say, oh, okay, no, it's making more sense to me. I know what it is. If they're paying attention, and if you just drew what they drew out in midair, they're going to freak out right here, which is kind of fun. But so I just like to throw this in. It's a nice little tip for you. Draw all the common items that you can think of out in midair as you're reading them. I know what it is. You don't. I have no idea what it is at this point, but you're going to go to the wallet and find out. So go back down to the wallet, and all you're going to do is take your business card out to draw what you think they're thinking of. And all you're going to do is just remove it and get the peak at the same time. So now I know it's a smiley face. So I just remove the business card, get the peak, put the wallet down, and then I draw a smiley face. You can place that on the ground or on the table, cap the marker up, and then recap. Now you drew something, you're think of a picture in your mind. During that Pictionary thing, would I be wrong if you were thinking of, was it a smiley face? Yes. It's exactly what I drew. So it's a quick, simple, easy to do drawing duplication that it's just self-contained in your wallet, which is pretty sweet. So I hope you enjoy that. Now it's time to move on, and we're going to learn how to set up the Psypher notebook. All right, welcome to the last setup. This is for the Psypher notepad. You've also received a larger piece of Psypher. This is going to go into this is a standard size notepad. I get these at Staples. It's just a regular little spiral bound Staples notepad. So go grab yourself one of those. And we're going to show you two different setups here. One is kind of a self-contained setup that you could kind of reuse over and over and over and over again. If you're doing walk around, be a great way to get a piece of information to use for a lot of different routines. And then the other way is the way that I've used it, which is for pre-show. I think it's a great way to get some information pre-show. So let's take a look at the first method. All right, let me show you how to set up this Psypher notepad so that you can use it over and over again to get peaks. This is a really cool idea that Brent Braun showed me not that long ago, and it's been the way that I think it is the best way to do this, in my opinion. So here's how it goes. You've gotten this big piece of Psypher gimmick. This has actually been cut to fit the back side of these standard notepads. Now, I'm going to cut this piece of this Psypher gimmick here, but you should understand that it has been sized to fit even the spiral bound part. So if this is something that you're doing all the time, you might want to take the time to punch out these holes in the top side of the Psypher gimmick, because this Psypher gimmick is going to become the back side of this notepad. We're going to leave this on, but we're going to be basically pasting this to the back side of the notepad. You can see they're almost the same color, which is pretty cool. But if you want to take the time to punch those holes in there, by all means. It is not necessary, okay, because this just looks like the back side of a notepad. I'm going to show you how to cut it right now. So what you're going to do is get some double stick tape, and again, you're just going to be pasting it or taping it along the sides. I'm going to put some on here. One more. Okay. So that is the back cover of my notepad there. I want to get my impression on the outside. So the impression side, the side that you're going to read, is going to be here. So you want this is my rough side. I want that down. I like the shiny side. So I'm just going to push that as far up as I can on that spiral bound pad. Okay. And keep it nice and flush, right? So now we're going to have a little bit of excess sticking out the bottom, of course, right? But that'll be on the back side of the notepad. I'm just going to trim that off. Get the light in my eyes, just I get a little bit of the notepad, but that's okay. Actually makes it even more square. Okay, so I've trimmed off the bottom of that notepad, but I have all of this as a Psypher surface in that notepad. You can reset the gimmick the same way. You know, if you had an impression here, you're going to reset it the same way. It takes a little bit more because it has to go through that cardboard, but this magnet can also live in the notepad, which is really cool. So you just want to make sure that it resets every time like that. All right. So here's the basic peek. Let me clean up real quick here. All you're going to need is your notepad and your Sharpie pen, your Psypher marker, I should mention. You can show the notepad. I mean, on the camera here, I'm sure you can see that it just looks like the back side of the pad. There's nothing special to see there at all. When you want to get an impression, you can just flip the pad open and, you know, go a couple pages, maybe one or two, no big deal. And you're just going to flip it open as you talk. You're going to be collecting some piece of information here. Let's just say we go for a name, all right? Now, you'll notice that I'm flipping everything down on top of the back side of that pad. I'm not going to have them right here. I'm going to have them right here on the side that is above my Psypher sheet. Okay, so all I've done is flipped over. Let me just go back to the beginning. I say I'm going to ask you to write down a name of a person. Go ahead and think of somebody, all right? Somebody that's close to you, somebody important to you. Do you have somebody in mind? All right, great. I want you to go ahead and write their name down on that piece of paper. Now, it is kind of motivated here because you're just flipping it over and you're not turning it around so that they can write. You're just handing it to them like this, and you're just going to have them write right there. So, in this case, they're going to write down Mary. All right? Okay. I don't want to see what you've written. Go ahead and tear that off like that. All right? You can even, and then you take the notebook back, all right? And all you do is flip the top cover back, crumple that up, put it in your pocket, whatever your presentation is at this point. But I just have that clear as day on the back side of the notepad, right? This can go into your jacket pocket. You can get the peek as you put it away, whatever you're using this for in your walk around set, okay? So this can get crumpled up, and you can reveal the information same way we've done it with the cards or the drawing duplication or any of that stuff. Use this information to your advantage. Now, the reset is really simple. And one thing that Brent showed me that he did when he was... the reset for this thing, it's really simple. One of the things that Brent showed me that he did was he actually kept his magnet inside the notepad, which was kind of cool. He took a pair of scissors, and before I do that, I've never made one of these, so I'm kind of excited. I'm just going to mark if you can see on the camera there, where all the little spiral pieces are. Right? And then I'm just going to put little slits on the magnet right there. So I'm just cutting the magnet. This doesn't have to be perfect. You'll see why in just a second. Then you can just kind of jam it in on these little wires. And that way your magnet stays self-contained inside the notepad and you don't lose it. And you don't have to keep it in your pocket or any of that. All right, I'm going to push that down. I guess I do have to trim that last one. I didn't think I had to, but there we go. Perfect. So you just push all these little guys down, up and in. Okay. Now, obviously, that's the first time I've cut it, so it's going to be a lot easier to get it in there next time I do it. But you can have that just living in your Psypher notepad when you're performing this. So when you get your impression, when you're done, before you go to your next table, you can take out your magnet and erase the last one. You can even, this is the type of thing, it's so big that you could direct them to write someplace else on the pad as well. You know, you could do different lines and use the same impression pad over and over and over again and reset it later on, because there is a lot of room on this pad here. So that is the first setup. And I think this is a really great setup if you have any routines in mind where you want to just be getting information over and over again. However, the way that I've used this in the past is for just gaining information for my show. If you're not familiar with what pre-show is, it's the idea of gaining information before you've ever stepped on stage. And I'm going to show you how I use that for pre-show now. So here's the way that I've used the Psypher notepad. In my stand-up show, I have a routine where I need to get the PIN code of somebody's phone. I can either do a PIN code or I can do a phone number, depending on what routine I'm going to use for. But if you're not familiar with what pre-show is, before the show starts, I'll go out to the audience and talk with the spectator about, we're going to be doing something a little bit later on in the show. I just need you to write this down and take it, because it might be important a little bit later. And the reason why I mention this is because when you're doing something pre-show, I don't need to get the peak in the moment, okay? I can get the peak backstage later on. And the method I'm gonna show you here, you actually can't get the peak in the moment. You're gonna have to go backstage and kind of disassemble something. But this is just another great use for Psypher for getting a peak on some information. And I'm gonna show you how I set that up right now. I'm going to take, I have a piece of Psypher gimmick here, and I've just cut it a little bit shorter. It's the same one from the back side there, but all I've done is just trim it so that it has some margins. It's not a full piece of paper here. It just has a little bit on each side. And that's important. I'm going to show you why in just a moment. I'm going to go down 5 pages or so. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so there's 4 pages there. And we're going to be putting the Psypher gimmick about here. Okay, now this is the side that I'm going to be getting the impression on, so I'm going to want that facing up. Now we're going to be taping this down into place. I'm going to try to do this a little bit quicker for you here. So, and again, this is a one-time use. It's kind of disposable. You're going to be doing this every time, but that's fine because you only have to do it once if you're doing a show. Right, so this is not a reset type of thing. All right, so it'll stick there. But what's more important is I'm going to get some pieces of this right on the edge of the paper. Okay, you'll see why that's important in a moment. I'm going to do it on the sides as well, right on the edge. Okay, and one over here. Now, if I'm doing this for a show, I might take the time to go all the way around and make this perfect. But for right now, I just want you to see what I'm talking about. We're going to put this Psypher gimmick centered on this piece of paper. Okay. Now we still have some tape sticking out. Okay. We got some tape here, here, and here. And that's because we're going to fold this down, right, and stick that down. Okay. So now I can't get to that Psypher gimmick even if I want to see it, right? Because it's trapped in between these two pieces of paper, okay? And that is just for precaution, okay? Because I'm going to be handing this to somebody, and all I'm going to say is go ahead and open up to the first page, and you could even do this if you wanted to, because there's no way they're going to see the actual gimmick. So I just want you to write down, go ahead and write down the first 3 digits of your phone number, or the first, go ahead and write down the 4 digits of your PIN code, okay? Now this is going to work the same way. I can let the spectator handle the pad. They open it up, they turn to the first page, and they write down whatever I'm telling them to write down. So let's go back to a PIN code here. They're going to say 6498. Okay. Perfect. And now what's nice is, okay, go ahead and take that, peel that off. All right. There's nothing that bled through or anything like that. There's no way that I could know what your PIN code is. Just take that off. We might need it a little bit later for the show. Take your notepad back, thank your spectator, and then you go backstage. Now when you're backstage, all you have to do, of course, is go to where that piece of paper is, and you're going to take it out from underneath the double stick tape, and hidden inside you will see 6498. And then you can use that for whatever you're doing in your show. So Psypher is also a great way to get some pre-show done if you want to use it for that. All right, you made it all the way to the end. I can't believe it. That was a lot. You probably have some great ideas, I hope, of how you want to use Psypher. Maybe you want to use one of the routines that you saw. It's absolutely fine. But I encourage you to just think about the stuff that you already know how to do, because like I said before, Psypher can really make everything you know how to do a lot stronger. Just makes everything a lot more impossible. Those pieces of Psypher don't have to be in the objects that we give them. I've put in a piece of Psypher inside of the top of a lid of pretzels, and we did an impression through the top of the lid. There's a lot of different ways that you can use it. I mention that because we cut those pieces to size, and you're welcome to use them anywhere you want. But if you do want more pieces of Psypher, there's various sizes available on Penguin Magic. You don't have to re-buy the actual Psypher kit. We have these separately here on the site. Same goes for the pen as well. I recommend, if this Psypher is something you're going to be doing a lot, get a few of these. You're going to want to have a few of them around in case you lose one or whatever. It's just always very helpful to have one of these around. If you are a champion and you run this thing right out of ink, well, you probably already know a lot about Sharpies anyway. You can remove this tip and put it into another Sharpie marker. Get another pen. It's not worth all the trouble. But we do have extra Sharpies on the site as well. I hope that covers everything. I encourage all of you guys, if you're out there, please leave a review on Penguin Magic for this product. We need everybody out there to know that this is something that they might enjoy as well. So if you enjoyed it, let everybody else know how much you enjoyed it as well. It's been my pleasure to present Psypher to you guys. I hope you got as much as you could out of it. My name is Nick. Thank you for spending some time with me.